Everybody knows this is Shawn Shultz, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Come heat up your summer over at Captain's Corner, the purveyor of all things wrestling. We'll be working with stars like Wheeler Yuta, King Haku, Coco Beware, and many more in the months of July and August. Also, make sure to mark down September 20th on the calendar as we present Slam Fest 2025. Montreal's first ever pro wrestling convention will be presented by Captain's Corner and our friends at LWA. Featuring The Godfather, Barry Windham, The Godwins, Doink and Dink the Clown, and a dozen additional stars. It all happens at Ruby Foods on the 20th of September. Make sure to check us out on both Facebook and Instagram at Captain's Corner. Cheers to the working man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
For those who don't know now, you know, baby. This is Hot Rod Biggs, Jared, Jimmy Street. We're going to take them to the limit one more time, baby, right here on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And I am here, as always, with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. With the news of we've had lately in wrestling, it could be better. It feels like a piece of my childhood is gone. And,
yeah.
But to lighten the mood a little, I did bring some charisma with me.
You mean the territory wrestling guru, the co-host with the Mo-host, and the star of this month in wrestling history with Quinton Quarisma? You brought him? What's up, Q? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How do you guys?
Yeah, doing all right. So obviously, Sheik, you started it off. Yeah, we lost Hulk Hogan. So, I mean, there are deaths in wrestling that are monumental. And, you know, you think of like Harley Race and you know, Luthez and, you know, so many great Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper, Terry Funk. The list keeps going for all the wrestlers that have left us already. But, boys, that might be the biggest one of all time right there. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it said a lot, I guess, since he passed, and I totally agree. They've said it twice, I think, on WWE. They said it on SmackDown, and then Raw. They said we wouldn't all be here together without Hogan. And some people could say Vince, but Vince's idea, but you had to have that guy that could do that, that could be that. I mean, at that time, I don't know who else could have done it. I mean, like if you take Hogan out of the WWF, beating the Iron Sheik, winning that title, Hulkamaniacs, tell me who you putting in that spot?
Yeah. I mean, Quinton?
Quinton, you're the historian, brother. Maybe you got somebody we could put there.
You're dead on, man, because there's nobody that could have got, I mean, they could have maybe found somebody, but there was no way at that time anybody could have got it to that level. There was just something about him, man. It just he right place, right time, and he had it, and it all came together. It just the perfect. I don't know how to explain it, but nobody else could have did it at that time. Got it to that level. It just, I mean, because it was him, Vince's idea, the machine, and it just all that together. But nobody else could have did it to that level. It could have, with somebody else could have got going, but it wouldn't have just took off like wildfire. Just
Yeah.
There's nobody could have did it.
Totally.
So I'm going to ask you all this question just to know, because I'm the youngest here, so you all can answer this question for me. What was merchandise sales in wrestling like before Hulk Hogan?
You talking about like in a store?
I mean, I'm talking about at events, anything. I mean, like what?
Pictures.
I mean, was it just pictures? I mean, is that?
It was pictures. You had those Norman Kietzer magazines.
Okay.
And I don't really. They said there were some T-shirts. I never saw any.
Yeah.
Then in retail stores, zero, absolutely zero.
Yeah. And Hogan changed all that. I mean, so, if you analyze him, so obviously, the Macho Man is one that we could mention, Andre the Giant, but I want to compare them to and why I think Hogan was the one. Hogan had the more widespread look that was like, he looked like an attraction. He looked like I think there was a difference in, Andre, Macho Man, all these guys we're talking about, those guys were attractions versus superstars. You know what I'm saying? And I know there's always a bigger word for somebody, like icon or whatever. But you have Hulk Hogan, who's like probably 6'6", 6'7", maybe even 6'8", whatever. He's built like a Greek god. He's an attraction, but he's also superstar able, if that makes any sense. Like he could be a movie star. And I don't think Andre could be a big ticket movie star. He could be a character in a movie. Yeah. He could play a monster, but he couldn't be the big ticket movie star. No. Macho Man was a great wrestler, but didn't have the size of a Hogan,
Exactly. He did. I mean, Macho Man, your uncle might have been the same size as Macho Man, but Hogan, you'd have to look up to him. I mean,
right. Yeah. And I just think the whole package of him, the charisma, I mean, he was just one of those 5-tool players, like they say, just one of those guys that had it all, had that it factor. And honestly, when you come, that's it. And there really may not ever be another one like him because he broke so many barriers down for program. I mean, my granny, who was not a wrestling fan, she knew who Hulk Hogan. That was my litmus test of if somebody is a superstar, my grandmother would have heard of him. You know what I'm saying? And Hulk Hogan, my granny wouldn't have heard of John Cena. My granny wouldn't have heard of Stone Cold. My granny wouldn't have heard of Goldberg, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. But she knew about Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's like the most out of touch with the sport that you love member of your family. And if they know about that person's a superstar. So anyway, maybe there's a lot of flaws in that, but yeah. So
I think it's a good point though.
Yeah.
How many guys got on, the cover of Sports Illustrated at a time?
Oh yeah.
When it was wrestling was still, a no-no, you didn't have that, and he did it. So that's how popular he was,
And the sports pages and the papers almost went out of their way to shun wrestling.
Yeah.
And he broke that barrier down and, true sports entertainment fashion. I mean, when you look at the statement, sports entertainment, that really is what Hulk Hogan is,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, people could say, I'll give it to people. People could say he's not the best wrestler of all time. He's not whatever, but he's the best sports entertainer of all time.
Yeah.
There is no.
He didn't have to wrestle.
There's no argument with it.
He didn't have to wrestle.
When he wrestled, he basically, in his later years, he basically stole everything from Jimmy Valiant. If you watch his later years of wrestling, his entire match is a Jimmy Valiant match. Now, again, he's not doing the knee knocking gimmick, but the back rake, the little heel, subtle heel movements that get so over with the fans because finally somebody's doing what needs to be done to them dirty heels. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Like I said, he didn't have to wrestle. He didn't have to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a match that I want to recommend for the Hulk Hogan, and I didn't ask you this to be prepared for this. This is just something that popped into my head. I love Big John Studd. I've always been a big fan of Big John Studd as a heel. And from his Mid-Atlantic days to, I thought he was just a cool heel. And if I were to recommend a match, there is a match in Puerto Rico where they are wrestling in a literal rainstorm. Like
Yeah.
Have you seen that, Quinton?
No, I know. I've seen so many of those stadium shows down there where they're out there and it's just pouring. But I haven't seen the one you're talking about now, though.
Yeah. And so many people are going to say, go watch Macho versus Hogan, Ultimate versus Hogan, Andre versus Hogan, Sheik versus Hogan, Flair. I want to say, go watch Big John Studd and Hogan fight it out against the elements in Puerto Rico. It entertained me so much. So,
Hey, I'll tell you a match. You mentioned it there, and like Ultimate Warrior matches can be tough to get through. Go watch Hogan pull a good match out of him at WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you want to knock his ability in the ring, go watch him pull a good match out of. And you want to talk? Want to talk about somebody that he was superior to in the ring? He was superior to Warrior in the ring. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I think my favorite one was him against Funk, and was it the first Saturday Night's Main Event or second one? It was one of them early Saturday Night.
Yeah.
I don't know how Hogan didn't just bust out laughing. Funk was fighting everything but Hogan in that match.
God love Terry Funk, but right now, God love Hulk Hogan. And we thank you for everything, Hulk. I said this on our Facebook page. Honestly, Jared, I think you could probably easily admit to this, that there may not be a podcast without a Hulk Hogan. And that's just the truth. So
I think wrestling would have been something to me that was on at my uncle's house when I went there.
Yeah.
Not something I watched myself, or that if it hadn't been for Hulk Hogan at that time. That's just the time that wrestling came into our lives. I'll just say that.
Yeah. That's the best way you can say it, actually. So, yeah, I don't think there's any more to say. Rest in peace, Hulk. We're going to miss you, brother. And we know you're doing better now. So, one thing, our last episode, guys, was awesome. Henry Godwin. Thank you so much, Mark. You're awesome. Thank you so much, Nick and Captain's Corner. Go see Mark on September 20th in Canada Slam Fest in Montreal. You're going to have a great time if you do. Tell him, give me back my pro wrestling sent you. Today, we've got an awesome show. I know last week was Mark Canterbury, but this week, everybody knows you can't have a podcast without Shawn Shultz on it. So, you guys ready to get Shawn on?
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back with the one and only, everybody knows, Shawn Shultz, after these messages.
Hey, my name is Tammy Reynolds. I am the wife of Forsaken Rick Reynolds, that super cool guy that everybody knows and loves. And I represent West Side Sauces. I make sauces, I bottle them, I seal them, I sell them. I have a hot honey sauce, I have a sweet sauce, I have a hot sauce, I have a white sauce that's so yummy you can use it on everything. They are absolutely amazing, and I'm so proud of them. We make them from scratch. So go on our website, westsidesauces.com, check out our products, read about our story, and go online and order you some of these yummy sauces. And Rick actually uses all of the sauces because he is a die-hard smoker and griller, and so he likes really good sauces and rubs, and I make them, so how convenient is that for him? Go on our website, westsidesauces.com, order you some samples, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy them. Thank you, guys. Be blessed.
All right, we are back one more time with the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And Sheik and Quinton, we've got an excellent one. Whenever I need a good show, you got to go with who everybody knows, Shawn Shultz. What's up, Shawn? Good to have you on the show, bro.
Hey, hello, guys. Great to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you on. And, today's a weird day, brother. The greatest wrestler of all time, or the biggest superstar, or whatever you want to call him, has passed away. So I think we should just start with that, man. What were your thoughts on Hulkster, man?
Man, well, so for me, it all started with him, like so many others. The first memory that I have, I had heard my cousins talk about pro wrestling a little bit, and I was probably only probably 5, 6 years old, something like that. And I heard them talk about it was fake and this and that kind of stuff. And then I remember, like, it was just a couple days. They lived in Nashville. I lived outside of Knoxville growing up. And they came down to visit it, and they were just talking about it. They went back home. A couple days later, my dad was watching it on TV. And I remember I just walked up, and he wasn't like a big fan or anything. It just happened to be on, right?
Yeah.
And I walked up, and I asked him, I said, is this fake? And my dad, very much a man of few words, said, just watch it, boy. So I did, and it was the first match I remember seeing on television was Hulk Hogan and Earthquake.
Oh man!
And I remember, he did the Hulk up, and it was just like, stars in my eyes, and I was just like, this guy's a superhero. What is this? And I was hooked from that point forward. And I was born in '82. So by the time I got in school, like, wrestling wasn't like mainstream, so you had to kind of ask around who watched it and who liked it and that kind of stuff. And I remember I had a friend named Marcus Hobbs, and he was the only friend in my school that I knew of at the time that was a wrestling fan too. And he was a big Hogan fan. I was a big Warrior fan. Oh, and we always kind of talked about that stuff in school, but man, it's where it all started, was with that guy, Yeah. And I know there's different opinions on him, but like, nobody can argue, like, if you lived that life, no matter what your goal is, no matter what your passion is, if you accomplish the things that man accomplished, there was a few times that the night after the WrestleMania where he wrestled The Rock, that reaction he got that night, I've seen that posted a few times, and it's just, oh my God, what a life he led. Like, what a life, and it's so incredible. And while we're talking about him, I did get to meet him. I got to be a part of his show in Memphis at the FedEx Forum. Me and Brad Thomas went there with Ricky Morton and Bobby Eaton, and got to be there all day. And, for the people that haven't got to meet him and just see him on TV and that kind of stuff, I just met him that night. And a couple months later, I got to do an extra spot for WWE, and he recognized me because we talked for a little bit of his show in Memphis, and he was there just doing like a guest thing or whatever. Time frame might be off, might have been a year later. Anyways, he recognized me. We talked for a minute, and I remember that just made me feel so special that he just took the time out to speak to me. But seeing him in the back at his show in Memphis, joking around with Big Show and Ricky Morton and Dutch Mantell and Honky Tonk Man and Barber Beefcake and all these guys and Reverend Slick, he was just joking around the whole time. And I'll never forget one line. Big Show looked at Ricky Morton and said, "You put 1,000,000 asses in the seats, so why don't you put one in your tights? You look like a board." And then Hogan looked back and he's like, "Oh man, you can't mess with Ricky Morton. I stole all the stuff that ever made me a dime from him." Oh, and I just remember, because you heard all those stories about him like screwing guys over to get his spot and those kind of things, and to hear him so humbly say that he stole his babyface material from Ricky Morton, and to just see him so humbly just joking around with everybody and so appreciative of the guys that were there. And I remember Buff and Brian Christopher had a match that day. And I got to see them work a few times with each other, with Bert Prentice and a couple other guys. They just had great chemistry. Yeah, they did. They had incredible chemistry. And I remember Hulk watched that match. And then I don't remember if it was Buff or Brian, but I remember just seeing him walk up and just like excited. He was still excited about wrestling after he already had slammed Andre the Giant. He had already done everything he had done, and he was still just so excited about a good match. He got a great crowd reaction. I just remember thinking at that time, like, man, like that's what I wanted. I want to stay that excited about this and still feel like a kid, just like the biggest name in the history of the business right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's an awesome story. Yeah. I know we started with the Hulkster, and this may lead into what Jared's about to ask you, but Sheik's going to take the first question here. So take it away, Sheik.
Got it. Yeah.
Feel no pressure to include Hulk on this list just because it's fresh. I want what you would say on any day of the year, anything like that. If you had a list of people that influenced you, you like to watch, you like to work with, whatever, 4 or 5 names, like a Mount Rushmore, who would those names be for you in wrestling?
That's weird. My son and I were actually just having this conversation a couple of days ago. So for me, I think number one had to be Kurt Hennig. He was like the first guy that I was like a super big fan of. I was such a big fan of his that I actually had a notebook. And there wasn't the internet when I was a kid. So I would scour the magazines and try to find out all the matches that he had. And I would keep track of all those. And I had a win-loss record for Mr. Perfect, a notebook of his win-loss record when I was a kid.
Awesome.
And I tried to find house shows and everything. You know what I mean? I tried to find all the matches. So got to start with him for sure. Second's got to be Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
He's Shawn Michaels.
Right.
And then growing up, John, Bret, Hart, of course. Like, those two guys, like, they were the same era, but God, like, what an impact they both had. Like, they changed the game, for everybody. And then getting up in my teenage years, I really loved watching Dean Malenko. I thought Dean Malenko was so good. Boom. And honestly, and I don't say this just because I love him to death, but Jerry Lynn was one of my favorites to watch as a teenager.
Oh man!
Because at that point, when I first kind of discovered, I knew who Jerry was. When I first saw him on ECW and I'd watch him work, at that point, I already knew I wanted to be a wrestler, like for sure. I was going to do this. I already found that Mr. Fuji had a school in Knoxville. I already knew all that stuff. I had a plan. I was going to get a job, save up X amount of dollars, do it, blah, blah, blah. I already had all that. So I watched Jerry because his technique on everything, his basics were perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would just watch that going, okay, and I knew he wasn't a huge guy. So I was like, he's not a huge guy. He's doing this and he's doing that. The way he hits the ropes, the way he locks up, all those kind of things. I just started studying Jerry. So Jerry was a big impact. And so that's 4, right? That's Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah.
Or is there 5?
Well,
So that's my top 4 right there. 4 or 5. Yeah, that's my top ones right there.
That's awesome.
That's a workers list right there. That's a those guys could go. Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. I mean, not enough people have him as an all-time great, and he's so smooth in the ring and could sell like crazy. Just a great overall.
And like I said, I loved him so much as a kid, and I never got a chance to meet him. Like, I started getting to go up and do stuff for Bert and be around TNA right after he wasn't there, and man, it's just so close. But I did get to talk to Joe and Amy. I got to become friends with Amy after the Harley Race Camp. And I got to see Joe here and there. And I got to be able to tell both of them, hey, your dad meant so much to my childhood. I was a really overweight kid. I was 187 pounds in 4th grade.
And that's what you weigh right now, probably, right?
Yeah, I'm 176 right now, actually.
Sorry. I didn't mean to put you too much on you, brother.
So I was really quiet. I was really insecure. And I just lived vicariously to him. And I got to tell Joe and Amy both that. And that's one of those things in life that I'm just I'm so glad. And just, one of those surreal moments, that I got to do that. And I'm just so happy that I got to do that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Dude, anybody who's seen you work can see the Mr. Perfect in your work. I mean, it's not blatant. I'm not saying that, but you can tell that you took from those workers and made it your own. So that's very cool.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a compliment.
Definitely. I mean it.
All right. So we're going to start off when you got to the wrestling. Who was your trainer and how did you find this person or persons?
Yeah. So, I always claim Tracy Smothers, and I'll get to that very soon. But originally, I had, like I said, I found that Mr. Fuji had a school in Knoxville. I grew up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where the Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb was built, all that stuff. I grew up there right outside of Knoxville. It's about 20 minutes from Knoxville. So I found out Fuji had a school, and so I got a job at Burger King. It was my first job, and I started saving up money. And my parents weren't they weren't real down with it. And they weren't, my mom is still hoping I grow out of the face, and I'm 42. But, they were like, I don't know if that's what you should do, blah, blah. But when I started working, and I saved up the money. And I think I'm pretty confident it was $2,750 to get trained there. So I'd saved up like $3,500. And when I had done that, my mom was like, "Oh, you're for real." Okay. So she knew this lady that she worked with. Her name was Karen, the lady that my mom worked with. So I went, my mom was like, "Hey, I want you to stop by work, have a conversation with Karen real quick. She knows somebody that wrestles." And I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever." And I kind of did it just to humor my mom. So I stopped by thinking that she just knew some, local, indie guy. And so I spoke to Karen, and Karen was like, "Yeah, I know this guy. He's a fireman. He's done really well. Apparently, he might have a contract. I'm not real sure, but you should go talk to him." And I was like, "Okay, sure." So I got his number and I called him, and his name was Jason Benjamin was his name. And he wrestled under the name Jason Recker. And Jason Benjamin said, "Yeah, I'm actually stationed in Oak Ridge. So why don't you come down and we'll have a conversation." So I went in there, and when I knocked on the door to the fire hall there, he was a fireman. I knocked on the door to the fire hall. He opened the door, and Jason is 6'4", and at the time he was like 218 and probably like 8% body fat, but he was on crutches, and he had long curly blonde hair, blue eyes, just a real handsome guy, just super handsome dude. He looked like a wrestler that I watched on TV, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So he was like, "Tommy?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come on in." So I went in and we talked, and the first time we talked for 4 hours. And he was just telling me that he had got a contract offered to him, developmental, with K-Town SmackDown, which Ron Fuller was running at the time. That's where Rico Constantino was there, and a lot of other, the Headbangers were working there. So a lot of the guys that were doing Memphis developmental or Louisville developmental, one of the two, they were coming in doing K-Town SmackDown shots. And Jason was just laying on a bench in the back with his shirt off. And Ron Fuller walked in and was like, "Who's that?" And this other guy was like, "It's Jason." And so they offered him a deal right there. As he was training, he broke his leg. And in that first conversation, he told me he probably was not going to do it. That he realized just wasn't really his passion. Loves it, but just wasn't something that he was willing to get injured a lot for. But he was telling me, he was like, "Hey, I heard that Mr. Fuji, school wasn't doing great, that Fuji really wasn't showing up a lot, and maybe there was some health issues or something like that going on, not real sure." But he had heard that several of the classes had got canceled because Fuji didn't show. So he's like, "So if you want my advice, here's the guy that trained me the basics." And he told me straight up, he's like, "This guy just is going to show you the basics. Call him, tell him that I sent you. He'll hook you up." So I called him, and his name was Scott Wilcox. And he wrestled with Scott Bishop, and he did, he was an enhancement guy for Georgia Championship here and there. His biggest claim to fame is he was Mr. Majestic one time at a Georgia Championship house show and got to work with Ric Flair.
Nice.
And so that was his big claim to fame. It was a one-time thing kind of deal. But he showed me the basics, and that was it. And he told me that. He's like, "I'm going to show you the basics. From that point, it's up to you, man. It's up to you at that point." So he trained me in a gymnasium in Clinton, Tennessee, and did just a 3-month course. And at the end of the 3 months, he was going to take me to the show in Maynardville, Tennessee. And the way he explained it to me was, "I'm going to take you up here. You can watch it. I want you to learn what not to do." I said, "Okay." So we get there. And that's actually how the Shawn Shultz name came about. Because when I first called Scott, I had said my name was Tommy Phillips, which is my name. And I guess I was so nervous, and I was 17 at the time. I probably mumbled quite a bit. And so for the first 3 weeks, Scott called me Tony. And I didn't have the guts to say, "Hey, that's not my name, man." Wrestling was just such a big deal to me, It's just I was just like, "Man, I'm doing this. This is the coolest thing. He can call me Jackass for all I care, whatever." And so he called me Tony, and finally after the 3rd week, I was like, "Hey, my name's actually Tommy." And he was like, "Oh." And he had asked me a few times before that if I was related to this family that he knew. And I said no. So when I told him my name wasn't Tony, it was Tommy, he came back with, "Well, your last name is Schultz, right?" I said, "No." He's like, "Well, you're not even the guy that called me." I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm here, aren't I?" And he was like, "Whatever, well, you're Schultz from now on." So that's how that came about.
Wow.
And I started so that first show in Maynardville that he took me to, I didn't even know I was going to wrestle my first match. We get there, and a guy named Jesse Ellis was running the show, and Jesse came up to me and was like, "Hey, you're Scott's kid, right?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Well, you're on first." I was like, "Oh." So I looked at Scott, and I was like, "I'm on first." He goes, "Yeah," and he smiled. And I was like, "Did you know?" And he's like, yeah, I didn't want you to be scared. And I was like, well, now I'm going to vomit, So I went out there and I wrestled a guy named Brian Nelson, and got in the back afterwards, and he didn't even announce me as a name. And they said, if you're going to come back, you got to have a name. So I looked over at Scott, and he's like, well, it's definitely Shultz. And so then I looked back at Jesse. He was like, Shawn sounds good with it. You're Shawn Shultz. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so that's where that happened. Then I was doing some shows here and there. I did one of my first shows for Bert very early on with a guy that I met down in East Tennessee. And at that show, I met Tracy. And I asked Tracy if he would no, wait, I take that back. It wasn't for Bert. It was for a different guy, and it was in East Tennessee. So I take that back. So I met Tracy there, and I just went up to him, and he was the first guy that on TV that I had ever seen, that and then met in person.
Yeah.
So I just went over to him. I was like, Mr. Smothers, such a pleasure to meet you. Would you mind to watch my match today? And he's like, sure, kid, I'll watch all the matches. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I did my match, and I was first, and I got in the back, and he was at the curtain watching, and I was just blown away by that, and I was like, Mr. Smothers, do you have any advice? And so he gave me some advice. The main thing was just tighten up, that some of the stuff looked kind of weak, and then he was like, well, after the show, he comes over, he's like, Shawn, where do you live? And I said, well, I live in Oak Ridge. He's like, no, I mean by yourself, with your parents. What do you do? And I said, I live with my parents. And he's like, what do you do for a job? And I was like, I work at a grocery store. And he's like, can you take a week off? And I said, probably, yeah. And he was like, do you want to go on the road? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, call to see if you can get a week off. So I stepped back, called the manager at the time. She kind of thought I was cute, so she let me off. And then I called my mom. I was like, hey, this guy, I think, is going to follow me home. So he followed me to my house. It was 30 minutes away or so, 45 minutes away. I got some clothes for the week. I didn't come home for a couple months.
Man.
Nice.
And the best thing is that he paid for everything for me. He paid for all the gas. He paid to have me some pictures printed off, because I had done one show and Gypsy Joe was there. And I didn't have any pictures, but I was a baby face, and I was 19 at this point, and 18, 19 at this point, something like that. And Joe comes over to me, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at the table, and I don't have any pictures on the table because I was just out there standing just to talk to the people, because that's what Tracy told me to do. Just go, hey, go let the people know that you're nice. Just go let them know that you're human. So I went out there and was just going to talk to people, and I didn't have any pictures. And Joe looks at me, he's like, where's your pictures? And I was like, I don't have any pictures. And then I can't remember what he said, but it cut me deep, I felt like a loser afterwards.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it, and then we get up the next day. I think we're headed to Indiana, maybe Evansville that day or something. And we stop at this little print shop, and he asked me if I have any pictures anywhere, and I had one. And he's like, let me have it. He gets a bunch of pictures printed off for me. He's like, here, now you got pictures. And then he paid for my food and everything, man. He just treated me like I was one of his own, and then taught me so much. And just at the time I was taking in all the wrestling. Now I look back and realize how much of a life that I took in.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
It just taught me so much, man.
So did you lose that job completely, by the way? Sorry to...
No, I didn't. No, I kept it. I kept it for another 5 years after that. Yeah.
That's amazing, actually. She really did
she had a crush on me, man. I'm going to use it. Yeah, I'm going to use that. Jeez.
Of course. I don't blame you, bro. That's awesome. That is awesome. Oh, my gosh. It's funny. I think Chase has a pretty similar story to that, too, dude. I think...
That's what's funny, man, is there's a million dudes that have that story. How in the world did Tracy Smothers have that much time to impact so many people in similar ways?
Man,
crazy.
God bless him. That's all you can say, man. Just God bless him. But that's huge, man, because obviously that's a dude, that's a real deal guy right there, man. That ain't no half stepping right there. That's a real deal dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing.
All right, so in 2003, you worked for NWA Wildside down in Cornelia, Georgia. How'd you get those bookings?
That was actually through my friend Menace. Menace has been a mainstay in the southeast area here. He did a little bit of stuff for Combat Zone.
Yeah.
He's an insanely talented, beautiful human being inside. Still my mom's favorite wrestler, because he actually lives in Oak Ridge too.
Nice.
So he's got to meet my family, and he's been around my family, since I was 7. I think I met Menace when I was 18. So he's been around my family since I was 18. He was around for my marriages, my kids' births, one of my closest friends, and my mom's favorite wrestler. So he actually got me on those. He was the contact there.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. So it looks like in 2004, you started working for Joe Bailey's BBW. Do you have any good memories of working for Joe or JC Bailey?
No. No, I'm kidding. Not really. There is one funny memory.
Okay.
He did a lot of the fair shows in Kentucky and stuff too. Joe did.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one in particular. God, I wish I could remember this guy's name. I can't ever remember his name. He was good, and he had been around for a long time, and I think he had done some enhancement stuff here and there, a few different places. But, everybody that wrestled in did.
Yeah.
But he like had the biggest upper body that I had ever seen in my life, but then the tiniest itty bitty legs. And I would always just go, man, how does he not break his legs working a match? But karma got me. Vic the Bruiser was there, and I had said something to Vic, and Vic looked right at me. He said, Shawn, karma's going to get you one day, buddy. You better watch your mouth. So the very next day, we were doing a show at a same fair, maybe a fair down the road, but it's 2 or 3 fair dates in a row. And I'm a bit of a sissy when it comes to like pooping in public places. I hate to do that, right? I don't like to do that. I will hold it.
Oh, yeah.
I will hold it.
Hold it all day.
Like that. Yeah, it was that American Pie when they called that one guy shitbreak because he always went home to take food. Like, I'm that guy. But like, so the next day after I'm making fun of dude's legs, I'm at this fair and it hits me, man. I had a hot dog or something. I'm like, oh no. And I look over and the porta potties are just like right there, right beside where all the people that are watching wrestling are standing. And I'm like, this is going to be bad, man. And it's like, it's probably legitimately like 87 or 88 degrees. Felt like 150, So I go in this porta potty and close the door, and it's like a sweat box, and I'm blowing my brains out of my ass, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, man, Vic was right. Like, how did he know? And I remember going to him and I was like, man, how did you know I was going to get it back? He's like, that's just life, baby. That's just life. And he was right. I got it back. So that was my BBW karma story. Other than that, I liked always being around Simon Says and Billy Black and all those guys. There was a weird period there where Todd Morton and a few of those guys kind of like didn't like me. And it was a weird situation. I remember like Bullpain beat me up, but he didn't.
Okay.
It was a really weird thing. Like he could have. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he couldn't.
Right.
But he didn't. But then like everybody was told that he did. It was just a really weird thing. And I remember because like Crass was mad at me for a minute over whatever. And Bullpain got me in the corner and pushed my head back and gave me a forearm to the chest. And that's it.
Wow.
As he's giving it to me, like a 1980s friggin' like fighter film, like Break-In or something like that, and a fight breaks out. He pushes my head back and he goes, "You will respect Chris Michaels." But he gives me like a regular work forearm. And I'm like, okay. And then like he picks me up, he does it again. And he says the same thing. "You will respect Chris Michaels," and hits me again. But he's not like saying it loud for the people. Okay. And I was a babyface. Pretty sure Chris was a babyface too at the time. So it's not like he was doing it for the show. He was saying it to me. And then like he forearmed me again, and then he like gave me a work punch. And then I went and did a show somewhere in Nashville area. And I remember everybody coming up to me like, "Man, are you okay? It's Bullpain." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "I heard Bullpain beat you up." I was like, news to me. I didn't realize he beat me up. And I was like, wait a minute. He was yelling things at me. So I don't know what happened, but yeah. So that's what fogs my memory with all the BBW stuff is that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it was actually the easiest butt whooping you've ever received, it sounds like. So
yeah, like, and he totally could have. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know he could have. I have no doubt that he could have beat the crap out of me. Like, so don't get me wrong. I know that he could, but like he didn't. But everybody said he did, and it was just a weird thing.
Yeah, yeah. So in 2005, you worked for Bert Prentice in Nashville. How did you get those bookings? And then was that the first time you met Bert, and what did you think of him?
I had met Bert prior to that. I think it was 2002 or 3. I went up again with Menace. Menace had got me the hookup for that one. And it was weird because he just called me and said, hey, man, I got to show up in Nashville. They wanted me to bring somebody to work. Will you go with me? And I was like, yeah, cool. We got there. And it was at the fairgrounds, and the TNA set was there. And I remember I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
And so we went out there and worked, and they pushed it so hard. They wanted Menace to be the heel and me to be a babyface. And I was just like, man, it really works better the other way. And finally, Chris Vaughn actually came up, was like, hey, Bob Ryder said, just be a babyface. And I was like, okay. And so, because I went up to Bert a couple times, and Bert was like, okay, sugar, and walked off or whatever, kind of blowing me off.
Sure.
And Chris, Bob Ryder says, just be a babyface. I'm like, okay. So it was a good match or whatever. I remember Truth was there, and Truth came over and was like really complimenting Menace, and because he's incredible. And I just remember thinking, oh, how cool, man, that dude's here. And I was looking around like, oh, that guy's here. And that's actually the first time I met Chris Michaels. And I remember watching him walk down the steps because I was huge. Like, I watched OVW like crazy. If I could find it, I watched it because my goal was WWE.
Yeah.
And I remember I knew who Chris was. First show I ever went to in Knoxville was at the Civic Coliseum. Shawn Michaels versus Buddy Landell, and Chris and Flash Flanagan tagged on that show.
Nice.
And I didn't know who they were, but when I left, that's who I was talking about. And so I remember just walked up to him, and I was just like, hey, Chris Michaels, oh my God, man, such a pleasure to meet you. I'm a big fan. I watched your stuff on OVW. Actually, the first live show I ever went to, you wrestled on it. And he looked at me, he's like, talking to me? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, well, thanks, buddy. Sit down. And so then we became fast friends, But Menace first, and then I didn't go back for a little while, and I just did a guy named Jason Scott. He also wrestled with Adam Antium. He was going up there, and he lived near me, and I kind of knew him, so I was just like, hey, can I ride with you? I want to see if I can get back on. So I went back up, and Bert was just like, all right, kid, you're on second.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's kind of how that worked out.
Gotcha. Okay. Good job, Sugar.
Yeah. Bert's one of my favorite people in the history of my life. So, man.
Yeah. Dude, Bert paid me so well. I mean, it's ridiculous how well he paid me as a greenhorn manager that really didn't even deserve to be there. It was awesome. So
he treated me so good. Like, he took me and my daughter to, like, the ice thing in Nashville there a few Christmases in a row. He took us to the Opera Mill Hotel a couple of times. And I say he took us, he gave me the tickets and said, here.
Right.
Yeah. I think he went to the Opry Mill Hotel one time, or Opryland Hotel with me once. It was a bunch of us. It was me and my daughter, Maddie. Maddie was probably a year or two old. Bully Douglas and a few of the, I was, kind of in that family at the time.
Yeah.
So, and then I think maybe Micropod was there, maybe.
Of course he was there. Come on. He was there. He was like,
I can't remember if he was there that time. He was there sometimes, but I don't know if he was there that time Bert was actually there.
Dude, every time anytime I was near Bert ever, it was Rapata was somewhere around there. So, and I'm not like getting into all that. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying
I know what you mean.
He was a constant part of Bert's crew. So.
Yeah, he's part of the fixture. He's a fixture.
Absolutely.
So in 2005, you worked for Deep South Wrestling. How did that booking come about?
That was that's a really funny story. So Troy Beasley was doing ring announcing down there, and the story I heard, and I never talked to like any of the higher ups in WWE about this, but what I had heard was they were thinking about having just like a house show announcer that was a little bit more interactive, and Troy was high energy. Like even at Bert shows, Troy would come running out, he'd be swinging the microphone in a circle, and he'd be like, "Oh, you people ready?" And like the crowd would lose it, man. He was great at it. And so he was going down there ring announcing, and I think they were giving him a look, him and Dan Masters at the same time, God rest his soul. And Dan's an old friend of mine as well. I love Dan. But he was going down there. So Bert comes up to me and he goes, Shawnee, I need you to give Troy a ride to Deep South for WWE. I got you a shot. They're going to look at you. So I was like, whatever, I'm there. So like I was taking him, and we get down there, and I walk in the back, and Troy, they immediately had a bunch of stuff Troy had to sit in on. He had to be involved with everything because he had to know all the cues and all that stuff. So I was kind of alone. And the only guy in the locker room I knew was Kid Cash.
Oh, nice.
And so I walk in the back, and I'm looking around, and I see Cash, and I go up and talk to him for a minute. He walks away to go do something, and then one of the Shane twins, nicest guys. Oh, my God, love those guys. So nice. But one of them comes over to me. I think it was Todd. He comes over, and he's like, hey, brother, Bill Demott asked us to come ask you to leave the locker room. I was like, I guess there's a confusion. Bert Prentice sent me. And he was like, okay, I guess you need to go talk to Bill. I was like, okay, thank you so much. Do you know where he's at? He's like, yeah, he's right out here. I was like, oh, cool, thanks. So I just go up to him like, Mr. Demott, Bert Prentice said he had spoke to you or Jody Hamilton, that you guys, that maybe I could be here and maybe get a look or something. He's like, I don't know who Bert Prentice is. And I was like, well, he said, he's like, I don't know who he is. And I said, okay, well, I guess I was lied to. I apologize. He goes, good, then get the fuck out of the locker room. I said, okay. So I step out of the locker room. At that point, Cash is coming back in from outside, and he looks at me. He's like, hey, man, what are you doing out here? And I was like, Demott asked me to step out. And he's like, hey, Bat, you're one of the boys. Get back in the locker room. Okay. So I walk back in the locker room. I'm sitting there for a few minutes, and I see the Shane twins like staring at me. And they're just like, I just see the eyeball of me. And then the other one comes over. And he's like, hey, bro, I don't know what's happening, but Bill Demott just asked me now to come over and ask you to leave the locker room. He didn't say it as nice as I am.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, man, I'm sorry. I was like, I did. Kid Cash asked me to come back in. And he's like, I get it, man, but you just got to step out. I was like, no problem, bro. And I stepped back out. And about that time, Johnny Swinger starts to come in, and Cash comes and like greets him, sees me standing in the hallway, and he's like, John, what are you doing? Get back in the locker room, bro. You're one of the boys. And I was like, okay. So I go back in with Johnny Swinger and Kid Cash. And then both the Shane twins come over to him. They're like, bro, dude, like he's wanting us to physically remove you. Please just step out so we don't have to do anything. And at that point, Bill Behrens was standing there, and Behrens came over. He was like, Shawn, what's happening? I told him what was going down. He's like, I'm going to go grab you and Luke Hawks a security shirt. If you guys will kind of just chill somewhere for a minute, pass by. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went and stood over near the concession stand because I knew Jody Hamilton's wife was running the concession.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nothing else. I struck up a conversation with her, and develop a relationship at least here.
Yeah.
So I went over there, and then there was a kid standing there, and he obviously, something was there, and he was really excited. The Miz was wrestling from where my memory picks up here, and he was like really excited, jumping up, down. But he had like one of those portable CD players and headphones on. And he also had like a cup he was trying to throw away in the garbage can, but the garbage can had a lid. And he was holding the CD player, and he had his headphones on, and he had his cup in his other hand, and he was trying to open the lid, and he dropped his cup. So I just looked over. I was like, oh, man, you need some help? So I opened the can up for him. We threw it in there, and he's like, what's your name? And I told him, I was like, what's yours? And he said his name was Nick. And I was like, oh, cool, man. I said, who's your favorite? He's like, The Miz. And I was like, sweet, yeah, man, he's awesome. It was Miz and Ryan O'Reilly working in that match. And he was sitting there cheering. He's like, who do you want to win? I was like, The Miz, too, since he's your favorite. We're sitting there talking. Then I kind of feel somebody behind me, but I'm still like thinking, might be one of the Shane twins trying to kill me. So I'm just like looking straight ahead,
Right.
And then me and the kid Nick are sitting there talking. Then finally I hear a voice behind me go, hey. And I turn around, and Nick Patrick is standing there. And I go, oh, hello, sir. How are you, sir? And I was like, hey, I love the NWO stuff, man. I thought that was fun. And he was like, who's this? And he pointed at the kid. I was like, oh, it's my buddy. It's Nick. And he's like, yeah, who is he? I was like, my friend, Nick. And he's like, you don't know who he is? I said, no. And he's like, that's my son. I was like, oh, cool. He's my buddy. And then I turned around and I kept watching the match. And he was like, he stood there for another minute. He was like, you really didn't know you were just being nice that whole time? And I was like, yeah, man, he's my buddy. He's like, come with me. I said, okay. And he takes me back to Jody Hamilton. He's like, Dad, put this guy in a match next week. And Jody Hamilton looked at me and said, all right, son, whatever you say. And he looked at me. He's like, do you know anybody here? I said, I know Kid Cash. He's like, okay, cool. It's you and Kid Cash next week.
Dude. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Just being nice. Just being nice. Like,
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was it. Just being nice.
so, and you reacted with actually like scorn and harsh with nice, and look where it got you. That's huge. That's a lesson. We can actually end this right now.
The Shane twins too were super cool because they were being pressured into like doing something they didn't want to do, and they were real communicative. They came over and were like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing, dude? Please don't make us have to do something to keep our job. Please just go, man." They were just so nice about all of it. Then once I got to be there for a little while, they were just so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was there just a miscommunication with Bill Demott, or was he just a jerk? I mean, I've heard that. So
no, Bert just lied to me.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. Daggone.
Bert just lied so I would get Troy a ride.
Oh my God.
I mean, I thought that could have been an option too, but I didn't know. Did you?
No, it was just Bert.
Did you get to work? I know there was a bunch of people that went through there that made big time roster stars, everything like that. Did you work with anybody that made it to the main roster of WWE?
Yeah, like I got to work with Knox quite a bit. He's a cool guy, man. I loved working. Probably my favorite guy to work with down there was Derek Nykirk, and he never really. I think the only thing he did on TV was he was one of those guys in those weird helmet masks that came out on the WWE version ECW for a minute.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever remember. It's like a 3-week thing they did where they just came out in these weird helmet masks and beat people up. But I don't even think he even got any face time. But he played Major League Baseball first.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He was super cool. He was really cool. Actually. Him and Knox were tagging. They were Team Elite at the time. Yeah. And I got to work with them quite a bit. Yeah, man. Nykirk was so good. Like, he was so smooth. Like, he's probably one of I think him, Joey Matthews, and Chad Collier might be the 3 smoothest guys I've ever worked with.
Wow.
Just so good.
Yeah.
And then Knox was cool. Knox was just a cool guy. He was just fun. Gallows was down there. I can't remember if I ever worked with him. But Fandango and Ego Fantastico, or Johnny Curtis and Robert Anthony tagging. I got to work with them a little bit. I got to work out in the ring with Omega a few times, which was super cool because he was like, he was like kind of the outcast guy, because he did all the like video game stuff, and they kind of shunned him a little bit. He was kind of the outsider, so he was happy. Just I wanted to learn, and I was just like, dude. I'd seen some match with him and Hero on the internet or something, at the time or somewhere, tape training or something. I was like, dude, I watched that match. You're awesome. You show me this and show me that. And he's the first guy to ever show me how to go from a wheelbarrow into an arm drag.
Oh,
nice. He showed me how to do that night. So he was super cool down there. I haven't seen him since then, so God knows. But Sonny Siaki a lot. Got to do Brodus Clay was G-Rilla at the time, and he was managing Sonny Siaki and Eric Perez.
Yep.
So I worked with Sonny a lot. Me and Chris were down there together doing that. We worked with Sonny a bunch because Sonny knew Chris.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was, man, I'm trying to remember anybody else.
That's cool.
Kofi was down there, and the cool thing about Kofi coming in was I didn't have a contract. I was just going down to work, and I had helped Dr. Tom with a seminar in Knoxville. He had brought Ryback in because Ryback had got released for a second and was trying to get some indie bookings. So Tom had called me and asked me to come do the thing and work with Ryback. And I was in and out of that place anyways. But then Kofi had came down with a couple other guys from Boston to do the seminar. And we had kind of hit it off and talked quite a bit. And then like just a couple weeks later after that seminar, he got signed. So I was down there doing Deep South, and he came in. I was like, "Oh, hey, man." He was like, "Hey, brother, so cool." He's like, "You get a deal too?" And I was like, "No." I'm so sorry. I was like, "No, it's cool, man." But he's always been a great guy. But yeah, everybody was down there. It's so cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right, in 2005, you were working for UWA around Ocoa in Knoxville, Tennessee area, and you became a mainstay. You became a mainstay there for years. Tell us about the UWA.
Yeah, man. Oh my God, so many good memories. So the guy that ran that was named Danny Grubb, and Danny was cool, man. Danny just liked wrestling. He just loved wrestling. He just wanted to do, the best he could. And him and there was 2 brothers that helped him, Jason and Chris. And they were really cool. They were both bouncers at a bar in Knoxville, just big redneck boys, but super cool guys. And they were so cool because I went to them and I was like, hey, I remember I had worked for them a couple times and I came back and Dr. Tom was there. And nice. I was like, holy crap, Dr. Tom Pritchard is here? And I remember going over to Danny and like, what is he doing here? And he's like, well, he just lives in Knoxville. I was like, does he? Oh my God. And I was like, wait, do you guys have money to afford guys like that? Because they paid me decent, but they never had guys like that. So I just figured it was just because they didn't have money.
Right.
To do it, because it was just running a flea market. And I'm not trying to sound judgmental, but I just, that's an issue when you put the show together is your budget. So I just thought they didn't have it.
Right.
They're like, well, we got a little extra. We had a friend pitch in. And Andy, he ran the concession stand there. And he was the guy that kind of helped fund it. So he wanted them to grow. So he was the guy that started paying. So I was like, oh, I could get you guys Tracy Smothers and the Naturals.
Mm.
And they were like, get a price. So I got a price. So they started coming down all the time. And when Tracy and Dr. Tom were both there, then Ricky started coming in all the time. Nice. And then Bobby started coming in all the time. Ricky Morton and Bobby Eaton, they started coming in all the time. And with Chase and Andy being there, guys like the Now from the Northeast was like, hey, we're going to go down to Knoxville because there's a couple of good shows down there. So they were coming in then. And then the Georgia crew guys were coming up. So the Wild Side guys were coming. There's a Thursday shot too. So everybody, nobody was busy. So everybody started coming up. They were just so good. And Andy's granddaughter name was Amanda. And Amanda was in a wheelchair. And she was there all the time. And I remember one time Menace walked past her and he called her Hot Wheels. And she just smiled so big. So like the next time I walked past her, I was like, what's up, Hot Wheels? And she was like, you make me so mad when you wrestle. And I said, what are you going to do about it? She's like, I might get in there and beat you up. And I was like, oh, yeah. So we started talking. And then she was really cool. So one day I didn't have anybody watch my T-shirts and stuff. I just went over. I was like, hey, Hot Wheels, you want to go watch my table for me? Do you mind? And she's like, oh, I'd love to. So then she ended up watching it for me forever, every time I was there. And then we ended up going. They took me and my daughter to Dollywood. And she was in the Special Olympics golf. She did golf in the Special Olympics. So they did one in Nashville, and I lived in Nashville at the time. So I stopped by, and like local newspaper came and did a little story on her, and put me in it, which was really cool. So I got really close with their family, and they just did good business, man. They kind of left it up to us. It was really fun. Menace was he's a school teacher. He teaches preschool, and he had a lot of friends that were in UT. So he would get a lot of the UT kids to come over. So we ended up, I think when I first started working for Danny at UWA, he probably had, 25 to 50 people. We started consistently having 200 plus on this Thursday gig in a flea market in Alcoa, Tennessee, and like, it was just cool, man. The crowd knew us. That's where my everybody knows thing started, because I had lost my temper a bit. And had said some bad language, and they had asked me. They called me afterwards, just real professional guys. They called me afterwards and was like, "Hey, we don't want to do this. A lot of fans are complaining about your language, so we have to do a thing where we're going to suspend you, and we're going to have to actually suspend you, and ask you not to come back for about 3 weeks. And then when you come back, it'll be fine." I was like, "I get it, man. I'm sorry I lost it like that. I apologize." And they were like, "We get it, man. You were aggravated." And just was what it was. So they were really cool about it. But when I came back, I got the microphone and I was like, let's mess with them. Because the fans, as soon as I got the microphone, they were like, oh, after I lost my mind the last time I was there. So I just looked at the guy and I said, everybody knows you can't have a wrestling show without a Shawn Shultz promo. And a bunch of those UT kids started laughing. So I was like, if you get a reaction like that, I'll say something stupid, stick with it.
Yeah.
So then I just started doing it. And I think I wrestled Menace that night. And I told him when I did it, when he got in the ring, I was like, hey, do a couple things. I'm going to roll out. I'm going to get the mic. So I did a couple things. I rolled out and I grabbed the mic and I did it again. I said, everybody knows you can't have a wrestling show without 2 Shawn Shultz promos. Got back in the ring, did a couple other things, rolled back out, got the microphone again. And then before I started talking, they said it for me. And I was like, oh man, this is cool.
Yeah,
So then Dr. Tom was like, hey, we got something. I'm going to work with you and I'm going to try to get you to not say that. And that's going to be our whole story. So we did like a 6-week thing together where he just tried to get me to not say my thing. And then I said it every time. And then every time they would just sing along with it, so it just got to learn so much from him. UWA, man, just so many great memories. Travis Sawyer started there. So many great memories with Travis. That's where I met Tony Lucchesio. Changed my life. Tony and I changed each other's lives. Met there. He actually moved from Cleveland. He had been in some trouble with the law. He moved from Cleveland to Knoxville to get away from the trouble that he had been in. And we met, and then boom, now he's Denny Dills.
Yeah, dude. He's I told Plunky this on his episode. Tony is great at making himself very important for a company, and I got to give my hats off to that. I think that's his talent. Man. He's very good at making himself important, and that's all you can ask for anybody, So.
Yeah, well, he's very good at listening and kind of going, okay, A, B, and C, go with A, B, and C. If I learn how to do that, cool. Yeah. And then he is very valuable,
Yeah. Job security, dude. Nothing wrong with that. So,
exactly.
So tell us about the new solution tag team. And then did Bert Prentice come up with that?
I think Adam and I did. Bert wanted me in a tag. But me and Adam were kind of talking, and I was just like, hey, because they had put so many tag teams together to try to work with the Naturals, and they were running out of people for the Naturals to run through.
Yeah.
And I think he just wanted like a team that he could run with regularly. And that was before John Michael and Chris O'Neill came down, I think, or maybe they were just getting there or something. And so we did it, and I was like, well, since they're having so many problems with tag team wrestling, what if we're the new solution?
Yeah.
And I think there was like some song that had it in, like a Black Eyed Peas song that had that in there.
Okay.
And we came out to that too, and it just mentioned the name or whatever. So it's just kind of like, well, it sounds like it fits or, whatever. None of that lasted long.
Yeah.
Oh, in 2006, you're working for CCW in Evansville. Any good stories about working there?
Evansville was just fun. It was always how we started our week. We normally started our week there, unless before that, Rudy Charles was running Tuesdays in Evansville, and I worked there too. And then the Coliseum on Wednesday started. I can't remember the guy's name. He was the son of the guy that owned it.
Was it Eric?
But he started bringing in Eric. Yes, Eric. Yes, yeah, Eric. He had started bringing in bands to play like on the stage while the wrestlers came out. It started a really cool little vibe there. And I remember thinking, man, this could do something. And it started drawing a little better because, it's weird. It's hit or miss. But that was a cool place because that's where I first met Ricochet and Chuck Taylor. I think that's the first place I met Chad Collier, I believe. And me and Ricochet and Chuck did a couple 3-ways there, which was fun. And it was always fun. It was usually me, Chris, Tracy, and Chase all working together there. So it was kind of just like a fun.
That's the Smothers Horseman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was like, whoever was the baby face said, ain't it great to be alive on a Wednesday night in Evansville, Indiana. Whoever was the heel said, I swear to God, if I hear any Sean sucks, I'm going to slap each and every one of them. battling Smothers promos.
I love it.
Hey, Sean, tell us about Pothead John worked up there.
I love John, man. He was cool. Like, I always liked hanging out with John. I mean, his name is Pothead John.
Right.
So he's not getting too excited about anything. He's kind of just chilling. So I thought John was cool, man. I guess I see him pop up on social media from here and there. I guess he's still around.
Okay.
That's cool. Good deal. Yeah.
All right. So in 2006, I see you started working for the Maddox brothers up in Kentucky. You got any memories of working for the Maddoxes up there?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They were so much fun. They had this little garage building in Hartford, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And it was usually me and Craig tagging, working with them quite a bit. They were always fun. We always do like fans bring the weapons and that kind of stuff. And that crowd was just hot. It was such a hot crowd. They were just so into it. The Maddoxes, their whole family was just loved by that city anyways. Yep. So it kind of made it easy. Beautiful family too. Oh my God. They're all gorgeous people. Like, both the Maddoxes are handsome guys. Their daughter, their sister is beautiful. Their mom was beautiful. Their dad was handsome. Just a beautiful family. Just so respectful and kind to everybody. They always would bring in Buff. Buff was always up there. That's where I got to know Kevin Furtick pretty well. Mordecai.
Yeah,
I got to know him pretty well up there. They brought in Rob Conway quite a bit. So it was always a good time. It was just always fun. I remember. Oh my gosh, that guy, can't remember his name. I feel bad to say that, but I was supposed to wrestle him one night and I didn't know why he didn't show up. And this is just for any young wrestler that might be listening to this, ask questions before you cut a promo.
Yeah.
Because what I did, just trying to get heat. I got on the microphone and I said I was supposed to wrestle this guy. You guys saw it on the flyer. Well, he didn't show up. And I heard from the grapevine that his parents realized that he was their son and they killed themselves.
Oh,
that's what I said on the microphone. Come to find out his mom had died.
Oh,
his
bro.
mom died the day before.
Oh my gosh.
Golly,
I know. I know. And I went up to him, and at that time, I didn't care that much when I hurt people's feelings. I've changed a lot.
Yeah.
But I remember at that time, I had tears in my eyes when I saw him because I liked him as a dude, as a person. And I went up to him, and I said, man, I don't know if you heard what I said last month, but I am so sorry. And he's like, no, nobody told me. What'd you say? And I told him, and he kind of just laughed, and he was like, that's a funny line. He's like, bad timing, though. I was like, I know. I'm so sorry. And I was like, I didn't know, man. I had no idea. I thought you were sick.
Yeah.
I thought you had like a stomach flu or something, you know? Like, I didn't know. And he's like, it's fine, man. That was a life lesson, you know? Ask questions before you just start saying some stuff.
Right. Yeah, man. Oh, dude. Well, this one's going to an interesting one. 2006, you worked for, so we've talked about sugar. Now we're going to talk about honey, Mike Porter. How did you meet Porter, and what were your memories of Mike Porter, and how was that first handshake?
Yeah, the first time I met Porter it was a really funny story. Bert was running regularly and rocking, man. Bert was freaking rocking when I first started working for him. We were doing DeSoto, Illinois. I don't know how many people, but I know it was packed. We were doing the Monday TV tapings at M Hill Pike in Nashville. It was rocking. And then things started kind of slowing down a little bit. And at that time, I was traveling, or not traveling necessarily, but I would ride a lot with Big Ryan Wilson. You guys remember him, Little Humongous?
Yeah, I remember the name.
Yeah, he and I would ride together. It was funny because we'd always joke too, because we were the two guys with the worst sense of direction, and we'd always ride together. We were always like, "Why are we doing this?" But then I did a show in Seattle, Washington with Eric Young, and we wrestled each other like 3 times in 2 days. So we kind of got friendly. Mm-hmm. And so then Eric and I started riding together to some of Bert's shows with Bobby Roode and Johnny Devine. Me and Johnny were really close. I love Johnny at the time. And so we were riding together, and Bert had sent us some address, so we like MapQuested it at the time or whatever. And it took us to Freddie Morton's auction house in Columbia, Tennessee. And we pull in, and I look at Eli and I look at Bobby, and I'm like, is this it? They're like, well, no, we're going to ask you. Is this it? I was like, why do we really? Like, cause at the time, like I said, Bert was rocking, man. Like he was doing good buildings, and we had air conditioning and nice locker rooms, and and I was just like, this can't be it. So we go in, and we're like standing there and looking around, and no Bert to be found. And Bert's who booked us. That was the only person we had spoke to. And like, it was getting close to bell time. Bert's always early. So I'm like, this is really weird. So Eli's like, have you talked to Bert? And I was like, I called him, but he didn't answer. And he's like, we're thinking about leaving. I said, yeah, this is strange. So I think they went up to Porter and asked if they could have their normal payoffs, and there was some discrepancy there, and they left. And, because it wasn't far from home. They were just like, hey, this, because they didn't know either, and I didn't know. And then like about 20 minutes after they left, in walks Bert. And Bert's like, Shawn. There he goes, I heard you tell the Canadians to leave. I was like, I didn't tell them to leave. I just said I didn't know if they were going to get their money. And he was like, I swear to God, you Knoxville outlaw little bitch. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And he's like, well, you can work for Mike Porter full time then. So I did for a little while.
Oh, man.
So that's how I started working for Porter.
Well, go ahead with the Trinity, Jared. Go ahead.
All right. So, 2006, still, you started working for Tony Falk's USWO in Nashville.
Yeah.
You and Chris Michaels formed the team, the Headliners.
Yes.
Y'all teamed off and on for a long time. How was it teaming with Chris?
Oh, man, the best. We had so much fun. Like, actually, just somebody sent me a video I'd never seen on YouTube. It was me and Chris working the Phoenix Twins, Tweak and Damien, I think, in Illinois for Sean Carnage that used to, I don't know, that's what I always call him. So I don't know what his name was. But he ran a good show, AAPW or something like that, up in Illinois. But man, tagging with Chris was so fun. Like we did the Deep South thing together too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just such good. I learned so much. Like I always tell everybody, everything I ever did that worked, I stole it from Chris.
Yeah. I mean,
like he was just, man, like, is there a more underrated wrestler ever? Really?
No.
Like, I don't know if there is. Like,
No.
seriously, that guy is so good.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
Yeah.
Like, timing, still, like, he can go out there and, like, he can not touch you for 20 minutes and he'd be the most entertaining thing on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and we always, my favorite thing was we started doing it where it was kind of like we didn't like each other, but we tagged kind of what we did, you know? So it was almost like I was always trying to get the spotlight from him. You know, it was kind of like that kind of thing. Yeah. So we would do this one gimmick. Well, you know, he would do the gimmick in the corner where the brother would move and he would nut himself on the second turnbuckle. You know, and always got a great reaction. He'd go running. I don't know what he was going for. He would just jump up with his legs spread. The guy would, I don't know what move he was going for.
Yeah.
But the guy would, you know, it never worked anyway. So, but we would he would shoot the guy in the corner and he'd go, now I got him, Shawn. I go, don't do it. It never works. And he's like, if you just shut up, I'd do it. I'm like, no, don't do it. Just go get him and tag me. And he's like, you just need to stand there and shut up. I'm going to hit it this time. Swear to God. I'm like, you're not going to hit it. You never hit it, Chris. And then he would come over and we would argue. We would bicker back and forth. And then he'd go, oh, yeah? Then he'd just take off running real fast and then miss it. And the guy would tag and I would feed in and we'd feed the bump, you know, feed the comeback then. And it was just so much fun. That was just an example of how much fun it was. We'd always just try to pop each other, you know. He would always let me go get on the mic because he's like, he'd tell me, he's like, go get the mic. Because I would say something stupid. You know, we'd always have one little gimmick too. He always liked to do it where I would be on the microphone and I'd be standing at the apron and I'd be talking to him and he'd be talking back to me, so we wouldn't be paying attention to the baby faces. And as soon as I say something like, we're going to beat him up and bust him up, give him a wrestling lesson of a lifetime, something else we stole from Smothers. Yeah. As soon as I would get it done, the guy would come like baseball side me and I'd go into the guardrail or whatever, you know. And Chris just thought that was so great because then he would feed in and take a drop kick and powder out too. And he was just like, oh, it's so easy. Let's just do it. If it was a town we hadn't been in, that's how we were opening the show every time.
I love that. I love that. And y'all are some bumping fools, man. Man, that's I want to go watch some of those matches right now, actually.
And now a word from our sponsor.
CHW is continuing the legacy of historic professional wrestling in Tennessee with monthly events at the Armory in Ashland City. CHW owner Mike Green has made it his mission to present the best pro wrestling shows in the Nashville area, and he has been delivering the goods. CHW Wrestling combines all the elements that Tennessee wrestling fans have come to expect. Action, suspense, athleticism, reality, stories, surprises, and excitement, all delivered by the finest professional wrestlers this state has to offer. Follow CHW Pro Wrestling on Facebook for the latest news, announcements, and show dates. And subscribe to Championship Productions on YouTube to see past events like the Ashland City Rumble and the Valentine's Massacre. Fun for the whole family with delicious and affordable concessions on site. Witness the action and excitement of CHW in Ashland City at the Armory. Family Wars, Love and Hate, Championship Gold. A CHW event is everything you're looking for in a night of live entertainment.
I remember on the USWO TV, it was the thing. I remember they were filming it down in the bottom down there.
Right.
I remember the thing was you had Chris's belt and you were the little kid around you, and Chris comes out like, "What are you doing with my belt?" You're like, "Oh." Your facial expressions were just Oh man, they were so classic. They were
I think I had his bandana on too, right? Didn't I have his bandana too?
Yeah.
And I like took it off real quick. I was like, I'm just polishing it for you or whatever.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. I was like, because we was all sitting there watching. It's like your face expressions, man. I still remember to this day.
I have to tell this story because with Tony, I love Tony Falk.
Please.
I love Tony Falk.
That's the shoot, Pally.
I don't know if he was in a bad mood this day, but it's just such a funny story. So when before Tony started traveling with me, we were already good friends. And Tony was always great at help. Like I had good ideas for what I wanted my promo to be, and Tony would help me kind of put it together. So he had called me the Achilles of wrestling a couple times, just to me, just being silly. And one day I was just like, what do you mean? What does that mean, man? Like, well, you can call me that, you know? He's like, it was some movie about Greek gods that he had watched. You guys probably know what it is. I can't remember the name of it. But Achilles, didn't train. Yeah. Achilles didn't train or anything. You know, he just woke up and ate grapes and women were all over him. Then he went and killed everybody, you know? And he in one of the scenes in that movie, he had said something like, your gods don't need me. Something else doesn't need me. Or your gods don't want me. You people don't want me, but you always call me when you need me or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is one of those times that like it was known by the audience that Bert and Tony were bickering.
Mm.
And because, you know, sometimes the Nashville crowd was like, they all were like family.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Yeah.
So like they knew all the drama that was going on backstage too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They knew, you know, whatever female was mad at Chase Stevens at the time and all that stuff. And so they knew that Bert and Tony had been bickering. And so I got on the microphone just for shock factor and I said something like something about, you know, Mike Searcy doesn't want me. Mike Porter doesn't want me. Bert Prentice doesn't want me. And guys, just to let you know on a secret here, Tony Falk doesn't even want me. But the fact is, each and every one of you need me, or something like that. And it was really funny to me because the crowd he had the week before, I wasn't there, and it was like a packed house. This week, there was only like 20 people there. You know what I mean? And I got this promo about needing me. And I get in the back afterwards, and Tony comes, and like the door swings open, and I'm standing back there talking to somebody, and Tony's like, Shawn Shultz, I got something to tell you right now, buddy. And I looked at him, and I was like, yes, sir. He's like, I don't need you. And I said, yeah. And he was like, I mean it. I don't need you. And I was like, huh? And he's like, I heard your promo, buddy. I don't need your ass. And I was like, oh, you're being for real. I was like, well, Tony, your crowd's like cut in half than what it was last week, and you advertised it this week, and you didn't advertise it last week, so I'm sure you don't need it. I was cutting a promo. And he just like looked at me and then walked away. I was just like, Tony will still call me sometimes, and he'll be like, Tony Lucchesio will still call me sometimes and be like, I don't need you. I'm like, I don't know, man. You don't need me.
That's good. I'm glad you shared that one, man. That's awesome.
And I love Tony, so I don't know if he just had a bad night or if he thought I was being for real or what, you know.
Yeah, he can get, every time I call him to talk about a podcast, he'll go off on, Jimmy, Uncle Tony needs a car. And I'm like, okay, well, a podcast ain't going to buy you a car, brother. I love you to death, but.
Yeah, hey, man. This ain't the 80s, brother. Like, we ain't going to get you a car, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Tony, but...
you want to talk wrestling or not?
Yeah. It's just a phone call, brother.
All right, so in the fall of 2006, you went back down and worked Deep South. Did you notice any change, just the way it was run from the first time you were down there?
Yeah, Dr. Tom was there, Bill DeMott wasn't. So it was a lot cooler.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a good mood and high-fiving and having fun, and people are learning things, and people are getting on TV and all that stuff. Yeah, it was pretty great.
Sounds like it.
Like, seriously, like the atmosphere. Like, so I left this part out because I don't like to talk badly about people that I'm not going to see and stuff. But, like, so I had that match with Cash the first time I went down there. And I guess, so I'll just tell the whole story. So I had a match with Cash. Felt great, man. Tore it up. At the end of it, Cash was the heel. I was babyface. Picks me up, raises my arm up. I had a knee brace on at the time, one of those Don Joy knee braces because I had ACL repair.
Mm-hmm.
And he like ripped my knee brace off and he beat me with it. You know, got me a bunch of sympathy. You know, so as I'm and he tells me as he's beating me, because Kid Cash is the friggin' man.
Mm-hmm.
As he's beating me, he goes, "You walk out of this ring." As he's kicking, like legitimately kicking my ass.
Yeah.
and so as like I'm getting up, Nick Patrick was our referee, and I was like, Cash said, let me walk out. And he said, "Gotcha." So Nick Patrick helped me up, and I kind of just pushed him away, and I walked out, and everybody stood up and clapped, and I was like, I just got a fucking deal, man. You know, that's what I was thinking in my head, walking the back. I was like, I just got a deal. So I walked to the back, you know, on my high horse. I look over at Bill Demott, and I was like, "Sir, was that okay?" He goes, "Go sit down." And I say, "Okay." So I go sit down. I'm sitting there for a minute, and like I notice, and again, I'm not going to name names for some of the guys I'm friends with now, but I noticed like a lot of the guys are kind of like whispering and looking at me, whispering and looking at me. And I'm like, what's happening? So nobody really says anything to me. Jody Hamilton comes up to me that night. He says, "Be here next week." And I said, "Great. Absolutely. Thank you." And I got there early. I told Troy, I was like, "I'm going to get there early, man." So we got there early that time. Me and the ring working out. That's when I worked out with Omega that day. Great. You know, I was just feeling so good, man. But this is great. They're like, they come up to me and they're like, "You're going to work." I'm just going to leave his name out. Big dude. And I was like, "Cool, man. Great." So we go over the match. Supposed to like duck a lock up, give him a couple shots, hit the ropes, big boot, feed the corner, couple big lines, feed out, take a finish. That was supposed to be the match. Cool. Whatever. He's a huge guy, so whatever. I don't care. So I get out and I do my beauty shot. As I'm doing my beauty shot, he grabs my ponytail and bumps me. And like when I say he bumps me, like he yanks me down. Like, and I hit the back of my head on the ring. And I kind of go, you know, don't black. I don't get knocked out, but I'm not all there either, you know. And like he's kicking me in my face, like as I'm down, like, and he's like toe of his boot kicking me in my face. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, he's killing me. So I like swat his foot away and I get up and I punch him as hard as I can in his nose. And his nose starts to trickle a little blood. And I pull back to do another one. And Nick Patrick leans in and goes, "Hey, kid, it's the whole locker room against you. So next punch is a work punch." You know, I'm like, okay, here you go. He picks me up underneath my arms, turns me upside down, and drops me on my head. I like crawl up in the corner. Here he comes with a clothesline across my face. Bam! He gives me one. I'm like, I look at him and say, I'm done. I'm out of it, man. And this dude's like 6'6", you know, 270. I'm like, you know, $180 at the time. I feed out, take his finisher. He pins me. I get in the back and like everybody's kind of just like licking their chops. Cash is at the curtain getting ready to go out. And he's like, "Sit with Swinger. Don't move. I got to go wrestle." I said, "Okay." So I sit with Swinger and I look at Swinger. And I'm like, "Hey, man, what's happening?" And he's like, "I don't know, bro. You pissed somebody off. Stay here. They're not going to touch you if you're with me." And I was like, "Okay." And then like they're whispering over there. And then Miz actually stands up and says, "All right, F you guys, man. You didn't even have the balls to tell that guy that was going to happen. All you said was go have a good match. You even went over spots with him, you big pussy. I'm tired of seeing you guys push people around. That's not how it should be. If you guys want to go get to him, you got to go through me too." And then Nick Mitchell, who was Mitch of the Spirit Squad, he stood up and said, "Me too, man. I'm tired of you guys being like this. This is ridiculous. You didn't even speak to that guy." And then Swinger stood up and he was like, "Just stay seated." And I was like, "Okay." So Swinger stood up and was like, "Seriously, this needs to change." And then everybody's kind of like relaxing. And then Paul Heyman was there, and Heyman comes over and he's like, "You come with me." I said, "Okay." And he takes me over to Jody Hamilton's office. It was just me and Paul there. And he goes, "Okay, do you know why you have heat?" And I said, "No, I don't." He said, "I didn't think so." And that's messed up. You have heat because they think you went out and took 50% of the match with Kid Cash last week. I know Kid Cash, and I know you didn't take shit. I know you only took what Kid Cash allowed you to have.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But they don't know that.
Right.
They think you went out there being an uncontracted guy and went 50-50 with a guy that they have all laid down for already. If this was ECW, you'd be in a storyline next week. But it's not. They want you to die. They have been jacked up all week that you are the guy that they need to hate because you represent anybody trying to take their job. He's like, now go back out there and be a man and face them. And I said, okay. He's like, I don't think anything's going to happen. Don't worry. And I was like, all right. So I just went out there. Nothing really happened. And then the following 2 weeks after that is when they asked me to bring Chris down. And what really changed everything before Tom got there was Chris was filling out his release forms and all that. So he was like sitting on a chair and doing that. And then David Heath, Gangrel, came in. I loved Gangrel. Right? I was a huge Gangrel mark.
Yeah.
He comes in and he's like, I'm like, stick my hand out, like, oh man, God, pleasure to meet you, man. He's like staring at Chris. And he's like, I'm sorry, I thought I saw a ghost. And Chris stood up. He's like, oh my God, I did see a ghost. Chris Michaels. And like, he hugs Chris and everything. And like, finally, when me and Chris get away from him, I'm like, you know Gangrel? He's like, well, I told you I traveled with David Heath. I was like, who the hell knows who David Heath is, man? That's Gangrel. he was like, yeah, it's David Heath. So like, then he comes over, he's sitting behind me and Chris, and he leans up. He's like, anybody you got heat with here, buddy? And I said, actually, yeah, that dude right there. And he goes, that's who I'm working tonight. I said, no kidding. He goes, why do you got heat with him? And I told him the story. That dude comes in the back afterward. He's got handprints across his neck, across his stomach, across his face, on his back. Gangrel just laid into him. And that guy came over to me afterwards, like shook my hand and was like, hey man, we're all good, bro. Sorry about that. They told me to do it. And I was like, oh, you're good, man. No problem.
That's good. That's good.
So in 2007, you worked for Mitch Ryder's XCW. Any XCW or
Yeah,
Mitch
Mitch
Ryder?
Yeah, really cool. Mitch Ryder, baby. That was a really cool little gig. There's a lot of really talented guys there. I never had a really great match with Derek King there. It was probably the best match me and DK ever had. It was really fun. I remember DK was blown up after 30 seconds because, you know, he normally didn't work. He was like, brother, we called all those spots. I was like, we called the opening. Oh, it did, man. But it was a great match. It was a lot of fun. There, I think, let's see, trying to remember who was all there. I remember one day I took my daughter and she was at the gimmick table. She was like 3 or 4 at the time. And she was sitting with the person that was with me. And you see all that code talk I'm doing? The person that was with me. Anyway, she was sitting there and Chris Hero or it was Necro. One of the two was sitting there beside my daughter. And the other one, okay, I think it was Necro was sitting there. No, sorry. It was Chris Hero was sitting there. And then I guess there was some drama there, and then Necro came running and jumped over the gimmick table and tackled Hero. And they got in like a shoot fight on the floor for a second there.
Oh, wow.
And right beside my daughter. So I was like, Mitch, you got to get security, man. And my daughter's out there or whatever. But that was a really fun show. There's a lot of really good guys there. And I always had really good crowds.
That's cool, man. That's cool. 2008, you start working for Reno Riggins, Saw in Millersville. I guess that's the fourth of the trilogy. I don't know how that works, but anyway, Reno, you got to include Reno. Right. You worked a big program with TJ Harley that was all over Saw TV. Yeah. Any memories of that angle?
Yeah, for sure, man. I love TJ. TJ's an old friend. I guess he's getting back in the business up in Canada, which is great. Had a lot of fun with TJ. He and I were together quite a bit during that time, so it was just always fun. The whole Reno thing was cool. Like the TV was a really cool thing. I know there was some weirdness there for a little bit with payoffs and that kind of stuff with me and them, and so that's why I kind of jumped to Porter, then back to them, then back to Porter, and back to them. It was weird, you know. It was that time where you can't wrestle for this guy if it's a wrestle for me and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, I ain't sitting a contract, guys. That's stupid. But yeah, so it was cool. Getting to do the TV was fun. I enjoyed that anytime I could, because I would have much rather have talked than you know, did a 20-minute match most of the time, you know. So that was always fun to do and have a story with it, which is what I wanted to do. And then they brought in Rachel Worthington, so that was a fun little thing. She was really cool. She had just done some modeling, so she was new to wrestling, so that was fun. I remember they brought in another girl too at one point that they were thinking about making her real name was Marilyn. And again, I'm going to leave names out to protect the not so innocent. But I remember one of the guys that's a Nashville mainstay. It wasn't Chase. Went up to her and tried to hit on her. And this Marilyn girl that was almost Rachel Worthington, but she knew bunch of different types of mixed martial arts. And nobody knew that. And her and I and TJ had got friendly. We had hung out several times because she like trusted us. And so this guy came up like just out of nowhere and wrapped his arms around her waist. And I was sitting, putting my boots on beside where she was standing when that happened. And she like grabbed the guy and gave him like a legit judo throw. And then like put her forearm on his throat. And she was like, "Don't touch me like that." And I was just like, whoa. So I remember TJ going, "Can't use her, man. We can't use somebody who can beat us up." I was like, "Ooh, good point. Yeah, we bring somebody who can't beat us up."
Oh, that's fun.
All right. So 2008, you worked for WLW. How did you get that booking? And when you was up there, was Harley there? Did you get to meet Harley?
Yeah. So it was the Harley race camp. So we did the camp, me and Sigmund. Crazy story there. I had just had a brain hemorrhage, legitimate. And that sounds a lot worse than what I remember. So I didn't really know what a hemorrhage and a contusion was at the time. So I had a contusion. Contusion is, I guess, a bruise that it's bleeding under. So that I was hemorrhaging underneath the bruise. So I was bleeding underneath the bruise. So it was technically a brain bleed, a brain hemorrhage, and my brain was swelling. And so I took my daughter to SeaWorld in Orlando, got down there, felt really off, went to the hospital. They rushed me in, and like I was unconscious for like 3 days. Had some real weird short-term memory loss for a little while. Completely fine now, thank God. But that was right before that, so I thought I wasn't going to get to go. And then I ended up feeling okay. I'd done a couple matches just to make sure I had my bearings. And I went and I told them, that had happened, but I felt fine. And that was before CTE and all that stuff. So nobody was really educated. So they're like, "Oh, you got your bell rung. Cool, whatever."
Right.
So they let me do it. And so me and Sigmund went out there together, partied like we were maniacs the whole time. And I'll never forget, like Harley did a big speech at the end of the first night or the first training day. It was like, "Hey, this is where I live. You guys don't go out and act a fool. It'll get back to me. If you do, you'll be sent home and your money gets kept. So don't go act a fool. Don't embarrass me." So right after that, I go up to Trevor Murdoch. I'm like, "Hey, where are we going tonight?" And he said, "Didn't you just hear Harley's speech?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Don't act a fool. I can hold my liquor. Where are we going tonight?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, I am getting married at the end of the week." I was like, "There you go, brother, bachelor week." And he was like, "Okay." So we went out like every night after that, and had a really great time. Got to go out with one of the coolest things is Richie Steamboat was there.
Oh.
And so me and Siggy and Vordell Walker and Mike Elgin took Richie out, and Amy Henning took Richie out, and Richie got really drunk. And he was like at the bar, and then Amy came over to me and she was like, "Hey, Shawn, Richie's like passed out at the bar. What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, let's get him, where's he staying?" She's like, "Well, I actually know where he's staying." I said, "Cool, let's get him there." So we threw him in the back of the car and got him back there. Next morning, I think training was at 6 or 8, one of the two. Walk in, and Ricky Steamboat comes over, and they all called me. Trevor started calling me Tennessee at the beginning of the thing, so they all called me Tennessee. So Ricky Steamboat come over, and he was like, "Hey, Tennessee, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you get my son drunk last night?" And I was like, "Well, since you're asking me, I guess you know already, so no use to lie." So yeah, I did. And I was like, "Well, I didn't think I got him drunk necessarily, but he did get drunk, and he was with me." And he was like, "But I also heard that you got him home, and you carried him in the house and covered him up and everything." I was like, "Yeah, this is what we do." And he smiled so big, and he was like, "I'm so glad you did that. He needed that so bad. He's been so stressed about this camp. Gosh, I'm so glad you let him have some fun. Thank you so much. Good to hear the boys are still around." They gave me a big hug, and I was like, "Oh man, my butthole was so puckered up. I thought he was getting ready to chew me out or something." And he was like, "Oh, it's great,"
Yeah. Oh man,
it was a great time. Me and Siggy worked Mike Elgin and somebody. I can't remember. Somebody else that went on to be somebody too, I think. It was like, man, everybody was there. Tommaso was there. Kyle O'Reilly. Got to be around Kyle a lot. Bobby Fish was there. There's a ton of guys there that went on to make it. Herb and Gervs, Bollywood Boys. I love those guys. Love Herb. I met Herb the first time somewhere in Illinois, and just the best dudes, the best guys. Love those guys.
That's cool, man. Very cool.
So in 2009, you get to work for Ring of Honor. How did those come about, those bookings?
That was Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn did that. I had started working with Jerry quite a bit. We had met, I think, actually at Tony Falk's show. And, I went up and I was just like, oh, man, such a huge fan. You're who I kind of like watched as a teenager to try to learn how to wrestle. I think you're so good. And he's like, oh, well, thank you so much. And so I got him a booking in East Tennessee at UWA to work with me. So I wanted to work with him that same night. Sabu wrestled Chase Stevens. And cool thing that night, that was the first time Chase ever said I was good.
Oh.
Because me and Jerry had a match. I got the back. Chase was like, you know what? That match was really good. I was like, oh, thanks, Chase. I appreciate it. But so after that, Jerry was like, hey, that was fun. I was so glad you know how to be a heel. And so after that, I was just like, take me with you. So I went everywhere with Jerry that Jerry went. And then they were doing the show at the place there in Nashville. Him and Nigel were working.
Was it at Vanderbilt?
Was it?
I'm talking about the Ring of Honor show.
Yeah, was it Vanderbilt? Well, I can't remember where it was. That was a nice building. I know that. Anyways, I had the Everybody Knows music at the time, and I had the robe on that said Everybody Knows, and I had the tights that said Everybody Knows. And I remember Kerry Silken coming up to me after I got dressed, and he was like, Everybody Knows, huh? I was like, oh, yeah. And then, he walked past me a couple other times. He's like, we'll see if everybody knows. I was like, oh, we'll see. And the cool thing is, it's like at that time, I was working around Nashville a lot. I was working around Knoxville a lot. So everybody kind of knew me there. Mm-hmm. And as a lot of people from Knoxville had came up, so nobody knew I was going to be there. And I was the first thing to come out. So when my music hit, it got a really great reaction.
Oh, man.
And it was probably one of the better reactions I ever got. It was one of those things. Oh, man, this is awesome. And Kerry Silken was standing there when it happened. And my music hit and it popped, the big pop. And I looked over and I was like, see, everybody knows. And he's like, I guess so. And I wrestled the first of the 9,000 ninjas that I had wrestled for Ring of Honor. And she was one of their trainees, really great kid, did a great job. I think we finished it like a sunset flip or something simple because he was real green, But it was good. It was a real fun match. I got a lot of great feedback. Adam Pierce and I got friendly from that and got a lot of great compliments and all that. And then they brought me back regularly to come in and do some stuff here and there. Pierce would call me. And every once in a while, when Jerry wasn't there, Pierce would still ask me to come in. And normally it was just preliminary matches. I think the one that got the most recognition was me, Crimson, and one of Davey Richards' other guys that he trained, Aaron something. And we were working Ricochet, I think Kyle O'Reilly, and then Bobby Dempsey.
Okay.
And we had a 6-man, and it was on Survival of the Fittest 2009, I think. And it was on the DVD and everything. So that got a lot of note. But I worked about 1,500 ninjas other than that in the preliminary match.
Well, in 2010, you worked some for Matt Riviera's TCW. You have any good stories about working TCW and those long car trips? Yeah, man. It's funny because I think it had been like a month in a row. Me and Tony were busy, man. We were all over the place. And every time we had a really long car ride, I was on first. Mm-hmm. And we were joking that first one. I was like, and we were running behind, of course, because that's just what life was at the time. And I looked at Tony. I was like, I swear to God, man, if we get there and I'm on first, I'm going to lose it. And we get there and I'm on first. We're running late. I'm on first. And I'm just like, that's stupid. So, I quit. Chris Michaels, Chase Stevens, Tracy Smothers, Carney called the match. I'm like, right here, dude, bip, 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 da, 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 over here, do this, bip, bip, da, 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 boom, boom, right here, bang, bang, right there, we'll go to the heat, da, 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 da. I'm calling the match like that. And then I just sit down and start getting dressed. And I don't realize it, but Tony tells the story so good. The guys just stand there looking at me like, what? And Tony's like, what he said was, and then Tony recalls the whole match to the guy in layman's terms, and the guy's like, okay, gotcha. Then it was great, it was great after that. And then the other best thing was they did one show that Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were on, and Buddy Landell was there. Mm. And Jerry was on that one too, I think. Yeah, Jerry was on that one. And so Buddy
knew me from a lot of the Tennessee shots. We known each other for quite a while at that point, because the first like TV I'd ever worked was NWA Rocky Top, that Dr. Tom and Jimmy Golden, a guy named James Strange, Ricky Morton, they were all kind of helping with that.
Okay.
So that was the first TV I'd ever done, and Buddy did commentary there, and he was around that a lot. And then like anybody that was ever been in the East Tennessee area was on that thing. It was really cool.
Awesome.
So I knew Buddy well from there and a couple other things. And so Buddy came over and was talking to me, and I'll never forget, me and Tony were sitting there beside each other, and they come up and asked Buddy to cut some promo. And it was just like a bumper, just like, hey, I'm a Nature Boy, Buddy Lindell. You're watching TCW Wrestling. Something like that.
Right.
Something real short. Didn't need to do anything, but he didn't want to do it. And for whatever reason. So they asked him to do it. They're like, hey, Buddy, can you come over here in this other room and cut this quick little promo? This is what we need you to say. And he's like, oh, man, I can't do it. I'd love to do it, but I can't do it. And they're like, why? He was like, John, you want to tell him? And I had no, like, I don't know what he's talking about. You know, I'm like, I think you should. You tell him, it's your deal. He's like, yeah, you're right, buddy. So I have this interstatal warrant for my arrest, and it's because of a fight that, Sean, where were we? And I was like, Cookeville, Tennessee? And he's like, no, Crossville, close. We were in Crossville, and Sean had started this fight in a bar, and I finished it with a beer bottle. And it cut the guy's eye. And after that, we've been on the run, and I just can't be on TV for nobody. It's all BS. He just didn't want to cut the promo, He talked more to get out of the promo than he would have to just cut the promo real fast,
Right.
But remember Tony going, first of all, really cool that Buddy Landell used you to lie. Second of all, why didn't he just cut the promo? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't.
He wouldn't leave his own motel room to win the world title. Who knows with Buddy, right?
Right. Yeah. And then that same night, there was this guy that worked for Riviera at the time, and he looked like if X-Pac had got left in the dryer for too long and aged 25 years. That's what he looked like.
Wow.
So we called him X-Pac's grandpa. And that's what me and Tony had always called him. And then Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were there, and the guy walks by, and I'm just like, oh, there goes X-Pac's grandpa. And Brian Road Dogg was talking to Kip about something, and he looks over and he's like, wait, what'd you say? I was like, oh, we call that guy Xbox grandpa. He's like, oh my God. He's like searching for his phone. He gets his phone out and he's like, hey man, come here. He takes a picture and he sends it to Sean Waltman. And he's like, these brothers just said this is your grandpa. And so that was a funny memory, because I was like, 90s teenage version of me is marking out right now.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh man.
Tell us a little about the Tracy Smothers Memorial Show that you ran. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I just wanted, I really just wanted to do something. As I said in a couple of things I put online, it was just, I just wanted to give a platform for people to go and hopefully have a good crowd and a good show. Just, like Tracy did for so many of us, in his honor. Just wanted to do something that just kind of, honored him. And I want to do it again. It just, got a big family and finances and all those kind of things. It was just, everybody was so great. Everybody worked so hard. I ended up, so many guys had reached out, like Eddie Kingston, hoped he could have been there. Then he had a thing, a lifelong dream to go wrestle in Japan in a certain promotion. So he couldn't make it because of that. And, which, I understood that for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, so I got Tony Nese instead of him to come in, and then EC3 did a great job, and Kerry Morton did great. Everybody just, it was such a fun little thing. I think we put on a really great show. High Spots did a great job putting the show together and editing it, making it look good. We did, all the guys were really gracious enough to send in videos to just tell stories about Pops and how he impacted them. It was just, just a really cool thing. Got a belt made with his picture on it, which is cool. My son has it in his room right now, displayed. And, we're going to break it out again. I want to be able to do it, but I just want to be able to do it where it is a good honor. And I felt like that one was. I felt like it turned out well. Of course, would have loved to have more people. Would have loved to not have some of the drama that happened before it. But it was still a blast, and it was a great experience. And I got to have my family involved, and so many of my outside my family members that are in wrestling was there. And I have to say this too. That dude that we all call Baba Booey that would just show up and help all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about? What's his real name? Anybody know?
I just know him as Babu. That's all. So, yeah.
Yeah, Babu. Yeah, that guy, man. That dude's awesome.
He is. Yeah.
Like, he showed up that day, you know, and everybody used to give him crap. You know, everybody used to crap on him.
Sure.
But he showed up that day, didn't ask for a thing, and just went above and beyond to help. And was just, he thanked me. And I was like, man, you helped me. Why are you thanking me? I appreciate this so much.
Right.
And I just, you know, after that, I reflected on how many times he did that in Millersville and so many other places. And just dudes like that are what make the shows happen, and they don't get enough credit.
Yeah.
I could not agree with you more, Shawn. Absolutely.
Yeah, he till this day, I know he will do anything you ask him to help.
Yeah.
And he won't blink an eye or anything, man.
He's just happy to be a part of it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So talk to us about the Destroy Your Life tour, the YouTube stuff.
Yeah. So with that, like me and Tony and we call him Dubs, Crimson, we were just like, you know, the internet was becoming more prevalent, especially in wrestling. You'd see, you know, all those little, you know, dirt sheets and stuff start popping up online versus, you know, getting newsletters and that kind of stuff. So me and Tony were just talking like, hey, you know, how can we, Rudy Charles had the Rudy Charles talk show. You know, Rudy's one of my close friends, and we'd always joke on him how stupid that was, and we should do it. You know? And so we were like, what can we do? You know, this would be stupid if we did this, you know, just run around and be jerks to each other the whole time, you know, and people would watch that. So we just started doing it, you know, and hoping it would catch on. It just, you know, I think the 15 people that watched it were just people that knew us personally, but like, it was fun. You know, we had fun with it and nothing else. We were hoping that somebody would watch it and go, hey, these guys are at least putting in some work. You know, that was kind of the main idea. You know, it was, hey, these guys are working and gosh, they're traveling a lot. Man, we put, you know, millions of miles on our cars. So we were just hoping somebody would notice, really.
Dude, I love it because I mean, first of all, I think I remember hearing about it back in the day, but I watched it all the other day when Jeremiah Plunkett told me all about it. And it's weird because I remember there being, and I don't know that this predates it, but it's really close to being the Colt Cabana's Wrestling Road Diaries. And I know that
was, I think it was around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, because it feels like it was like right at the same time. So that's kind of cool that you guys were doing that. And of course, it's content creation. I'm all about content creation in any form to help put yourself over. I love it. It was a lot of fun to watch that. I was telling Plunky, I said, man, we need to figure out a way to make that a documentary. But I'm sure Deals will have that figured out in no time.
Right. Yeah. He's probably got a disc set of it somewhere.
I'm sure he does, but it's available on YouTube. I'm going to share the playlist in our group chat, so make sure y'all check that out. And
for the record, I don't use all that language anymore.
Okay.
And I'm a different person now, so just to be clear.
Okay.
If anybody watching, not the same guy.
Okay.
All right. So, who was your last match? When was your last match, and who was it with?
My last match when I went back and I've done a couple after I stopped. The last one ended up being me and Shane Andrews, my closest friend, and I tagging. We worked Joe Black and another gentleman. I can't remember his name. And after I saw Joe Black clothesline Shane Andrews, I was like, man, that's it. I'm done. No. I had already started. So in 2017, I went to the doctor. First I went to a chiropractor. He had done some x-rays and he's like, hey man, I don't want to adjust you. You need to go get looked at. So I went to a doctor, a neck specialist, and my C3 and C4 had degenerated and fragmented so much that my C3 and C4 had actually fused themselves together in the front. And normally if you have a neck fusion, it fuses in the back. So at that point, they started talking to me about the possibilities of surgery. And they said, you should quit wrestling immediately. If you get a severe case of whiplash or something like that, you could paralyze yourself. Honestly, I felt okay, though. I still felt good. I had some tingling in my hand, and that's why I first went to get it checked out. And I just thought, hey, I'll go get adjusted. It'll go away. You know what I mean? That's why I went to the chiropractor. And so I went, they told me that, but I was like, I'm okay. I'm going to stretch and just really strengthen my neck up, and I'm going to keep working. So I kept working and I felt okay, but I had done AIW there for the last year and just a blast. But it's a more intense style. And so some of the days after that, I was having some real severe numbness and stuff in my hands. And I had got the flu for a couple days. And those couple days I was in the bed with the flu, I couldn't feel my right hand at all. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm done. It was just kind of like happenstance. I had just done that match with Joe Black and his partner. And I was just like, man, it's time. I just can't. I can't do this. I knew already, like, I eventually want to be a grandfather. I am now. And I eventually want to do that. And I don't want to be in a wheelchair. So it's like, it's done. Since then, I've done 2 matches. I did one with Jonathan David Llewellyn, JDL, at a Smothers show that Ox Harley put on. And then I did one more at a little show that I ran in Blue Ridge, Georgia, against Casey Owens, and I cannot remember his partner, but I'm a big Casey Owens fan. I think he's a great young kid, Chattanooga area. But they were great. We had such a good time at that show. And I tagged Torque. I don't know if you guys know Torque from the North Georgia area. He's a super talented little guy, been around forever. So we tagged and had a really great time, and a really great little fun match. But the initial last match was the tag match with Joe Black involved.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, as we're kind of starting to wrap up here, I know you've always been in incredible shape. So obviously now we know why. You telling that you grew up overweight and you wanted to keep ahead of that. And you've always been in incredible shape, man. I'll always give you those props. What have you been up to? Yeah, man. What have you been up to since wrestling, or after wrestling full time, let's say?
Yeah. So 2011 is when I had just wrestled full time from 2004 to 2011. And that's all I did. And, there was times I did good, times I didn't. But in 2011, I had my first divorce, and I was living a country song. I lost my wife, I lost my car, I lost my home. Wrestling had changed too. It went from, I was doing pretty well working for Bert 4 or 5 nights a week, and then doing one other show, doing pretty good. Making what I would make part-time at some regular job, at least,
right.
to making very little, because the internet became more prevalent and people were just, working to get the footage to send off to get opportunities. So guys like myself and Chris and Chase and those guys at that time, the 2008 to 2012 time, it's really hard to make a buck because the industry was changing, wrestling was just changing. And also they had done that rule where, you had to be 6 foot and 200 something pounds to even get a look. So, you just weren't making much. So I had to get a job. And so I started working in the fitness industry and started managing gyms. First one was Workout Anytime. With that same owner, I opened up 3 other locations and just really kind of fell in love with how the franchising system works and how serving people with health and fitness, it works. So kind of stuck in that. I'm actually currently in college right now.
Good deal.
Obtaining my bachelor's degree in marketing through Western Governors University.
Nice.
So really enjoying that. Yeah. And I'm also managing a Stretch Zone location in Woodstock, Georgia, which I super love. Stretch Zone is really great. Guys out there that are taking bumps that might be listening to this, look into it. It is practitioner-assisted stretching. It is so beneficial, especially, us taking bumps, taking butt bumps and that kind of stuff. Your glutes are taking a beating, lower back's taking a beating. These assisted stretchings are really, really something that can really benefit you and add some years on. It's just good self-care to do to add to your regimen of fitness and everything else. So fitness industry, health and wellness industry, my wife's an RN. We just opened up a business in Canton, Georgia, right beside Woodstock, which is where we live in Canton. Medstetics of Canton is what it is named. And she does permanent cosmetics and Botox.
Nice.
So we're actually doing our grand opening ribbon cutting August 5th at 3 p.m. And the Soul Salons in Canton, Georgia. We're really excited about that. We're looking at bringing on a couple new people into the place, the Stretch Zone in Woodstock, because we're just doing really good business right now. So just love that. Still in wrestling as much as I possibly can be. I love to go and do referee spots for Next Generation Wrestling in Knoxville. Love that crew. The next show coming up is August 17th in Knoxville. Cedric Alexander plus many other great talented wrestlers will be there. just doing that. And the goal with the marketing and all that is eventually to bring that into the wrestling world. Got a few projects I want to work on. Got some stuff that I've been working on. So just, trying to stay in there. That's in my blood. That is where I am happy. Doing this, talking wrestling for a couple hours tonight has made my night. And it has made my wife's night because she don't have to hear it. And so I just love it so much. I probably love it more now than I even did when I was bumping. Dude. And I definitely get it more now than I did when I was bumping 100%.
Right. And, so I did 200 episodes with Wolfie D on a podcast, weekly
Wolfie
podcast.
D.
Yeah. And I've done 100 here. And I got to say, I agree with you, Shawn. My light bulb goes off just talking to Quinton, sometimes my light bulb will go off and I'll be like, holy crap. Why did I not know any of this when I was in the business doing something? Like I could, but the light bulb goes off when it goes off, right? You can't really tell it to go off,
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Shawn, tell us about you turning your life over to Jesus Christ.
Man, you got a few days to hear me?
Go ahead.
Man, God, man, I wish it all happened exactly how it should for me. But at the same time, I wish I would not have been so stubborn and had known that Jesus was walking with me the whole time I wrestled. Yeah. It would have made all those experiences so good, and I look back and I got so in my own way so many times. And, when you do that, you feel so alone, you just feel so alone. And there's a young guy in Georgia here named Hakimian who's just leaps and bounds above where he should be. And I called him the other day and was just like, hey, man, I was just thinking about you. When you're ahead of where everybody else around you is, it's really easy to get discouraged. And I faced a lot of that. I'm not trying to sound arrogant saying, but I dedicated everything. So because I dedicated everything to wrestling, it put me in different positions than other guys I was with on a regular basis. So I stayed in this constant state of frustration. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even get to really settle into the blessings that I had in my life. So I grew up, my dad and both my grandfathers are Southern Baptist preachers. I met my wife at the same time I was leaving wrestling, and she immediately was on, asking me, do I know Jesus? And I told her about my dad and grandfathers being preachers, very similar. Her dad, grandfathers, all preachers. And she was like, why don't you believe? And I was just like, I feel like, we kind of decide our destinies and we decide that. And all the things that non-believers always say, right? It's always I can only go to heaven if I listen to a book of rules and all those things. So she kept on me. So we started going to a church in Blue Ridge, Georgia named The Ridge. And I went for a few times, and just like everybody that goes into those situations when you don't believe, sat there with my arms crossed with this, prove me wrong kind of attitude, And I went for a few weeks, and finally, the week before Father's Day 3 years ago, a guy named Mark Hartman, who was the worship leader at the Ridge there, was on stage, and he was preaching and going over his sermon, and he said these words. He said, I was so dedicated and passionate about following my dream that I had convinced myself to make it that I had to be bad at everything else in life, including being a good person and being a good friend and being a good husband. I convinced myself that the most important thing was for me to be good at music. Nothing else mattered. So I left it all behind. So I was like, okay, I'm listening. That sounds pretty familiar, and so I started listening, and he preached on his sermon, and the following week was Father's Day. And, everybody's different. I think everybody finds Jesus in different ways and feels his presence in different ways. I think it all happens exactly how it needs to happen for you individually, because Jesus and God knows us just, he knows us all individually, intimately like that.
Absolutely.
But Chan Mitchell is the pastor there, and Chan was preaching about God being a good father. And besides wrestling, the one thing I always prided myself on was to be a dad. I wanted to be the best dad I could. And my daughter and my son, now all my kids, I adopted my wife's two youngest, and I have a stepdaughter and then my grandson. And, all of them make it pretty easy. to be a dad. But I always prided myself on that. So my ears perked up and I started listening. I'm like, okay. And, and I honestly can't tell you a whole lot of what Chan said that day. But halfway through the sermon, for me, this is how it happened. I felt like a literal touch, like on my left shoulder. And when I felt that, it was like a movie reel went through my head. And in that movie reel was like all the scenes of all these blessings that I had lived in my life. And at the end of that movie reel in my head, I didn't hear like a literal voice, but I had an overwhelming feeling of God saying, I was with you. And I just bawled. Yeah. And my wife looked at me and she said, baby, what is it? And I said, honey, I'm getting ready to cry right now. I said, honey, I'm so blessed. And she just excuse me, sorry.
You're good.
She just lit up, she lit up and she's like, you feel him, you know him. And I said, I do, I know him. And so I always say that was the day that I was saved. But in all honesty, a couple months later, I think it was, my son's mom lives outside of Nashville, there where I lived for a long time. And so I was driving him back. We meet halfway. And so I was dropped him off and I was driving back. And as I'm driving, I'm listening to some worship music and I start to feel that same hand, that same touch on my shoulder. So I pull over and I'm like, oh man, what is this? And another movie reel goes through my head. But this time it wasn't all the blessings I had in my life. It was all these terrible things that I had said and done and the way I had made people feel in my past.
Yeah.
And he had it, I felt like he was touching me there, and same thing. I was there. And that was the first time that asking for forgiveness became something that I actually thought of doing, actually understood what that meant. It was the first time that any of those things came in my mind. So I just sat there in my car on the side of the road on Interstate 24. And I just cried and I just said, God, please forgive me. I don't want to be that person. For the women that I have mistreated, for the people that I didn't care what my actions did for them, all those things. Like, I want to be somebody that shines your light. I don't want to be the person that hurts people. And I just said, God, please forgive me for that. And that, I say that's when I started walking with Jesus.
Man.
Was that day. Wow. So I felt like I had like a 2-part like introduction to him, and just, man, I every morning I have the Bible app, and I'm doing the Bible in the year in chronological order right now. It's really great because Cole, my son, when he's with me, we get up and go to the gym early in the morning before I go to the stretch zone for work, and we'll go work out, and then we'll come back and we'll listen to our scripture that day, we'll listen to the verse of the day, and we'll say a prayer together. And man, it's just, and anytime I get to be around wrestling, like I tell these, especially these young guys, I'm like, listen, this is not easy.
Yeah.
There's a million guys out there trying, and there's 15 guys making it, and it's not easy. And, you're going to feel empty no matter what you do. Cause, I got to wrestle, on SmackDown and Phillips Arena in Atlanta. I got to do that, man. I went home sad.
Yeah.
That's just a small example. You know what I mean? But like for me, growing up, dreaming of doing it, like, why was I sad? And I was just so alone. I just felt so incomplete, and I don't feel that anymore. Like, I can have a bad day right now, come home, I can lay down and I can sleep good, because I try my best to follow what he's taught us, and I've realized too, and I got to say this, talking about it, I've realized that it's not a book of rules, and for the non-believers and people trying to figure out, guys, it's not a book of rules. It's not, it's a list of disciplines. And he ain't saying that you ain't going to heaven if you don't do it. He's saying you're gonna make a lot better impact on this part of your journey if you do them.
Yeah.
That was just something that I never understood until I let him in.
Man, bro, thank you for sharing that. First off, next, we've got one more question, and I don't even.
It's going to seem inadequate.
Yeah, but go ahead, Sheik, take it away.
So if you had to look back on your career and say, this was the favorite match I ever had, what would that be?
Oh man, that's hard. There was one that always sticks out. I had one match with Joey Matthews at the fairgrounds in Nashville, and it was one of those days that I feel like you know, and this is funny. I'm going to list two guys that used to tag. But Joey Matthews was one. Christian York was actually another, simply because at that time when I worked with Christian, that was for Mikey Duggar, O-Dog, in Bristol, Tennessee, which another person I just absolutely loved. I worked Christian, and at that time I was in really good shape. And like, I was working with Chase Owens regularly, and if you guys know Chase Owens, that guy can go, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked Cedric Alexander around this time, and I was in good shape. I was blowing those guys up, you know. And me and Christian York went out there, and Christian blew me up. Like, I was dying, brother. So that one I was really proud of, because I was babyface in that one too. And I don't have a lot of babyface matches that I'm super proud of, and that one I really was. He made me look really great. The match with Joey Matthews, I was also babyface in that one. Just learned and listened, and I just felt like I belonged really in that one. There's a couple matches with Plunkett that I had in Millersville that I was super proud of, that I thought just came across really well, and they just were just super fun matches, and I knew they came across well because the crowd was really into it. Just so many. Brad Thomas and I worked in the NWA Rocky Top. We had some really, really killer matches there. I remember those fondly. Anytime I worked with Chris, it was awesome. Gosh, I don't know, man. There's just so many that I'm just so proud of that I got to do. Now, I guess I can say this. Just watching, I guess my favorite match that I've ever watched myself in was probably me, Chase Owens, and Stigman was actually is a three-way we did at Boomsday in Knoxville, the outside show. And I think I remember it so fondly because I had been kind of down on myself. I had cut my hair and I was changing my body, and I was kind of just going over a whole new look. And that was the first time that I had wrestled and kind of felt like I belonged again. And going back and getting to watch that one on YouTube a few times, so it's just really proud. So that may top the list for me.
Okay. Yeah, we'll share that one. Sure. That's awesome, man.
Great stuff, man.
Shawn, this has been incredible, brother. 2 hours have gone by so fast. I don't even know. Your stories were incredible, but man, your testimony was the cherry on top.
Powerful.
So yeah,
well,
keep on keeping on, brother. You're a positive light for us out here, you know, and you keep that going on.
Well,
I think your wife saw a future in you that maybe you don't even know about. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, she did. She continues to push me on, man. So God bless her. And I totally outkicked my coverage too. She's freaking gorgeous, and she's a nurse.
Yeah,
and she loves me. I'm winning.
Yeah, good, man. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Guys, y'all want to say thank you to Shawn?
Shawn, appreciate you, buddy. It was great talking to you. Great meeting you.
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, thank you, guys.
Hey, Shawn, it's good talking to you again, brother.
Yeah, you too, man. Good to hear from you.
You too.
Well, thank you so much, Shawn. As always, we greatly appreciate the stories, but we definitely appreciate you dropping by and talking with us, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
yes,
thank you, guys.
Have a good night, man.
Take care, buddy.
You too.
All right, that was Everybody Knows Shawn Shultz. We'll be right back to wrap things up with Sheik and Quinton on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
Oh, Sheik and Quinton, man, wow. like, wow, that was an incredible interview. I got to say this, and I know y'all feel the same way. I think that might be one of our best interviews we've had. And honestly, Shawn just had some great stories. He must be like the Forrest Gump of wrestling because he has truly been everywhere, man. What'd you think of that, Sheik?
I thought it was great, man. He had so many stories. I mean, we were asking him stuff, and he was giving more than you asked him for. I mean, when you get an interview like that, it's hard to pass up. I mean, even like the Kenny Omega playing video games thing. I mean, I know that's, a lot of hear that about Kenny Omega. He's a big video game guy, so it's cool to hear like a personal story like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know about Shawn, man. I feel like I saw Shawn everywhere in Nashville. Quinton, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've known him for years and everything, but man, that was one of the better interviews I thought, man. He just he'd answer the question and give us a little more on each one, and had good memory, and yeah, that was an awesome interview, I thought.
Yeah, that Bill Demott story, I'm going to laugh about that forever. Just, it almost feels like Kid Cash and Bill Demott were messing with one another, and Shawn was caught between, but I guess it wasn't that case. But what would you do in that instance, Quinton? I wanted to ask you that.
I'll be like, look, I'm going to the car. If y'all need me, I'll be out there.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, once again, Shawn Shultz, you're the man, brother. Thank you so much. Guys, if you want to hear what's next, what's coming up, all that good stuff, look for us at GMBMPW on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. We greatly thank you all so much for the support. Keep sharing, keep liking, keep following, keep listening. Most importantly, we just thank you for doing that, listening. So thank you so much. Well, who we got next week? Who knows? You'll have to find out when it happens. Once again, go see Henry Godwin in Canada, and thank you all so much. Fellas, y'all got anything else before we wrap it up?
Nothing from me.
Go buy a shirt.
That's right. Thank you. All right. So for everybody knows Shawn Shultz, the Plastic Sheik Jared Street, the Territory Wrestling Guru Quinton Quarisma, and myself, this has been Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. We'll see y'all next time.
Don't forget.
First off, I want to start by saying thank you, because everybody knows I couldn't have won that first bracket without you guys. So I really appreciate that. For the next bracket is the winner's bracket. And if Shawn Shultz wins that one, then I go on to do what all you people want to see me do. And that's prove that I got the guts during the gut check. Shawn Shultz again. Shawn Shultz again.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.